Podmortem would like to thank Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Original Cinematic is an independent production company that has made it their mission to create, produce, and promote films that are inclusive, honor women, promote the LGBTQIA+ community, and provide prominent positions and roles to POC actors and filmmakers, and promote the films of marginalized and underrepresented populations. These are all things that are extremely important to our podcast as well.
Original Cinematic is currently accepting scripts and treatments. Both William and Xxena Rush are also available via email or Zoom to discuss writing and provide input and resources to all aspiring writers free of charge. Their information will be made available in the show notes. There may be delays due to a hectic schedule and all projects being read on a first-come, first-served basis, but everything will be read and responded to. William Rush has individually produced numerous projects, including Pack is Here, Before, The Cottage, The Winemaker, and Day by Day. Their award-winning film Group premiered and was celebrated at multiple film festivals as well as screenings both in person and via Zoom that was graciously made available to us and our patrons.
Original Cinematic has many exciting projects on the horizon. Their next film, Immersion, has been completed. The award-winning Sweetener is in development. Fetish begins shooting in September, and Encore will begin next spring. Their documentary, Women in Conversation, is slated for a September release, and we are looking forward to each and every one of them. It is truly an honor to partner with Original Cinematic, and we can't thank them enough for their contribution to our show. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program. Salutations! Welcome to Podmortem. I'm Travis Hunter-Sayapin, joined as always by my co-hosts, my sister and my brother-in-law.
Hi, I'm Reneé Hunter-Vasquez.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
This week, we're broadcasting live from the Micaela 1, discussing the 1997 creature feature, Anaconda. This film was directed by Luis Llosa from a screenplay by Hans Bauer, Jim Cash, and Jack Epps Jr. With a decent cast, memorable moments, scenic cinematography, and commendable creature design, Anaconda provides audiences with an action-packed experience tinged with horror, adventure, and humor, albeit unintentional at times. Though the film didn't fare well with contemporary critics, Anaconda would prove successful at the box office, spawning several sequels, a remake, an upcoming reboot, and over the years since its release, it has attained the status of a cult classic. This film was suggested to us by friends of the show, Antonio Huerta, TJ Bronson, Anthony Jerome M., Molly, and Noreen S. We'd like to thank each and every one of them for their continued support of the show, as well as this suggestion. This film was also the winner of our February Patreon poll, so thank you to all of our patrons who participated and voted. If you'd like to help us pick an episode, join us over on Patreon at patreon.com/thepodmortem. So, Anaconda, what were your first impressions on the film?
So this was 97. I was about maybe 13, 14, something like that. I remember watching this movie, having the DVD, and watching this. Why, I don't know. But me and my brother, I'll be quite honest. Me and my one of my older brothers, Isaiah, we used to watch the shit out of this movie. It was just the weirdest thing. We would quote this movie. We would like it. We knew it wasn't good. Like, I mean, I'll go ahead and throw that out there right now.
At least there's awareness.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because the movie does some stuff and then it's just like, oh. But, I mean, I watched it a lot, to save, make a big story short. But watching this now for the show as an adult, I'm going to be honest. I did find enjoyment in watching this. It's still bad. It's still not great. There's a lot of what? But I still enjoyed the shit out of this movie. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it is bad, but it's not it's not to the level of Maximum Overdrive to where it's so bad it's good.
No, it is
Or
not.
like it's so bad for me it's genius. You know what I mean? It's like, oh wow. But this was just like, oh, that's fucking hilarious.
Well, you have nostalgia tied to it as well.
Yeah, but this I can at least say it's not going to get the score Maximum Overdrive got. Let's not do that.
Yeah, I really didn't remember this movie at all. I know that we did see it when we were kids, but it was not one that stuck or one that we revisited a lot as far as I remember. I'll be honest, Maximum Overdrive did kind of have me in the mood for a little bit of trash. And I knew the reputation, and so I was a little excited to explore that. I think the issue here is that Anaconda takes itself too seriously.
Yes.
I think that is its fatal flaw for me. There are so many moments of pure hilariousness. As you said, T, in your intro, unintentionally, there are facial expressions. There are line readings. There are accents. There are shrieking snakes. There are so many moments where you're like, what the fuck am I watching? But at the end of the day, they're like, no, this is a fucking action thriller horror film.
Yeah,
like it's like, no, like you have to know, right? Like you have to know.
It's like they didn't get the memo.
Yes,
for their own movie.
Exactly. I feel like if I don't even know if there were any way to just lean into the ridiculousness, I feel like I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. I think that it just takes itself too seriously for how ridiculous it can be at times. Having said that, I will give it has a clear intent with the plot.
Yeah.
I understand the story. It is not convoluted. Maybe a character or two might be, but it's like, no, we're going out here to do this thing, and now this is happening. Okay, I get it. Maximum Overdrive, we were struggling a little bit with all aspects of it. So it's like, I can't even, like you said, it's not quite a so bad it's good. How did this get made? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. It's not that bad, but it's bad enough to not be good, if that makes sense. But yeah, this was just a wild one to explore. And I did, like you said, I agree. I did get enjoyment out of it as well. But not the kind of enjoyment that I think they wanted me to get out of it.
No, I definitely have to agree with you. And I just want to say off the top, I am a little under the weather. You could probably hear it. But we're going to press
just
on.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's my biggest problem with this film is the fact that they don't lean into that humor.
Right.
There is one character that literally, I think every moment he's on screen, it's confounding that this is not considered a comedy horror film.
Yes, yes.
Because every choice made, every random shot that we just randomly see, there are cutaways for no good reason other than to make me laugh, I feel.
Yeah. When you got here today, I was like, what was the direction? Like, I'm just really confused as to how this ended up on the screen.
Yeah. And I was thinking as well, because I was trying to remember, I know we had to have watched this as kids.
Yeah.
But it just, I guess, didn't stick with me. Watching it this time around as an adult for the show, I think that there are a few things that I do appreciate about it. I do like some of the effects work that goes into it.
Yes.
I think that some of the effects work is like distractingly bad.
Yes.
As well. So it's a lot of hit or miss.
It's that. And because there are animatronics involved.
Yeah.
And I love that. But yeah, it's like you said, some things we weren't ready for.
No.
And
right.
y'all did it anyway. And I admire I admire the ambition, but it is extremely distracting, like to the point of, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Like I should be scared right now, but that looks hilarious.
But I feel like if we would, if they would have,
did you work on this?
I didn't have nothing. I was 13.
Like, no, I swear.
Yeah, don't blame me.
I do feel like though, if they would have leaned into it, this would have needed to change.
Oh, of course.
What's going on? We've got to change what's happening here.
I feel like if they were to lean into it, maybe just a bit of the way that it's shot would change.
Okay.
Because a lot of the stuff that's there, it's like, no, you can leave all that in.
Well, because it's funny.
Yeah, well, but it's not supposed to be.
No. So it is like a really wild experience to watch.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like that might be why, like, at least now, I don't really know how I feel about this film.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels like a film that I kind of just digest and forget about it. I don't know
You
if
just
that's
move on with your life.
yeah. Just slither on through the
That's it. Yeah.
But back to that like hit or miss kind of a situation, the cast is really decent.
Yeah.
But then there's choices in performances that
Yes.
are very strange.
Mm-hmm.
There are really good scenic shots of the Amazon
Yes.
that are gorgeous.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then there's shots where we are the snake when we shouldn't be.
There's a lot of choices.
Yeah, and there's some really strange editing going on in this film.
Yes.
There's one sequence in particular that I'll bring up towards the end of the film that it's like, oh, what the hell were you thinking? I don't know if you caught it, but I had to go back because I'm like, there's no fucking way that I just saw this.
I don't know, but I'm excited.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
That's funny.
But I think, truthfully, a lot of the enjoyment that I got out of this film was kind of in spite of this film.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But before we get into the plot, I would like to talk a little bit about the production of the film. When it comes to this portion, I am used to having a lot of sources, but the sources for Anaconda were pretty scarce.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this information that I'm about to share comes directly from the production notes.
Okay.
But Anaconda was apparently the first project ever brought to the screen by a company called Cinema Line Films Corporation. And according to my research, it also might have been the last because but I don't understand. I couldn't find any other film listed anytime that this company's name is put online.
Yeah.
It's
The
just Anaconda.
only film. Yeah. So I don't know if they got swallowed up by a larger company, no pun intended.
or by a really big
Yeah. But the president of production / executive producer of Anaconda, Susan Ruskin, found the script for the film and fell in love with it immediately. And the reason that she did is because of the way that it combined horror and action adventure. But after reading it, she brought the script to another producer, Verna Hanna, who felt the same excitement and intrigue for it.
Okay.
There was a quote from her that kind of made me laugh a little bit because of her reason why she enjoyed the script so much. She said, "People like to be afraid so long as they know they're safe."
Oh,
What?
Which, yeah, that's...
she's like, so we won't actually threaten them.
We're not going to put a real snake in the theater, right?
I
This
hope
is
not.
just
Oh,
on
then
screen.
they'll be fine. They'll
Oh,
love it. They're gonna love this.
I'll finance it, yeah. But aside from that reasoning, the other major appeal for them was the fact that the creature in the film isn't a creation of science fiction, but it actually exists in the real world.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they also saw the idea of the anaconda evoking kind of a primal fear in people
Mm-hmm.
while also possessing some religious connotations.
Primal Fear is a great film.
It is.
Yes.
But go on.
Yeah. I was like, but then again, there is like a bit of shoehorned stuff that you're like, I wonder if that was a producer's,
Right.
you know, because it doesn't really fit.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I get snakes are in there.
Yeah. That's where they live.
Yeah. But anyway, they had a first look deal with Columbia Pictures. And so once they decided that this was the project they wanted to work on, they brought it to them and they were ready to move forward with finding a director after it was greenlit.
Okay.
So this is where Luis Llosa enters. And interestingly, he had experience filming 3 feature films in a jungle environment already.
Huh.
And so you put that with what they thought of his creative vision for Anaconda, and it's a no-brainer to hire him.
Yeah.
I will say, whatever picking we do about the film, it is not the setting or location
Oh, no.
or any of that.
No.
No, the way they use the location,
Yeah.
it's pretty
It's
impressive.
impressive.
Yeah.
But they also appreciated the fact that he held a lot of the same ideas that attracted them to the project. But he mentioned that he was also interested in the human component of it, as well as dealing with the idea of a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll meet,
We will.
But he also was excited just for the simple fact of getting to film once again in the Amazon.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that really impressed me a lot, is that much of the film actually was shot in the Amazon.
That's wild as fuck.
That's really cool.
Because it does, like you were saying, it looks beautiful.
It
Yeah,
does.
There's some shots that watching it, I was like, that looks fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But they said it was shot around the river city of Manaus, which is interestingly mentioned in the film.
Yeah.
So they're talking about where they actually are.
Okay.
But they were meant to film in the fall of 1995, but the weather prevented them from doing this because I guess the region had the worst drought they had had in 80 years.
Oh,
God
man.
damn.
And so water levels in the Amazon, they had said, dropped about the height of a 3-story building.
Holy shit.
And so obviously a film that takes place on the water,
Yeah.
not possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't take that as a sign that maybe maybe we should retool this screenplay a little bit or use these 2 years.
No, they're like, let's just wait for the
Yeah.
rain.
Okay, yeah, let's just keep what we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly
we'll
the same. But it wasn't until the following April, in the spring when the rain came, that they were able to film as planned.
Mm-hmm.
So they get their cast assembled. They get a crew of about 200,
Damn.
which was apparently the largest American crew to film in the area at the time ever.
Oh, wow.
And in the process of making the film, they faced weather difficulties, environmental difficulties, but it was with the local resources and the help of governmental agencies that they were able to accomplish everything that they set out to do.
Yeah.
They had spoken, I think it was the Brazilian military that helped them out like beyond what they even anticipated.
Yeah.
But after they had filmed there, they actually finished filming in California.
Huh.
And I'll tell you when we get to California in the film because it's honestly, you can't tell.
No.
I was trying to think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after the film is released, the critics were not kind.
What?
Yeah. And we'll talk about that too. We'll also be critics, you may not be. But it was nominated for several Razzies, which, fuck the Razzies, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a box office hit.
Mm-hmm.
So it defied all of that critical reception. It made, I think, over $100 million.
Damn.
It spawned 4 sequels, a crossover film with Lake Placid,
Okay. Okay.
and there's going to be a reboot. I think it's Jack Black and Paul Rudd coming out later this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
yeah.
that seems more in tone
Yeah.
with what this was, with what this could have been.
True. Well, John Voight's still free. I mean,
No.
Now, before we devour this film, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Pod Mortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, let's hunt our prey. So the film begins with pounding percussion, accompanied by a tense and ominous orchestra, as against a black background, orange text crawls upward, which reads, "Tales of the monstrous man-eating anacondas have been recounted for centuries by tribespeople of the Amazon basin, some of whom are said to worship these great snakes. Anacondas are among the most ferocious and enormous creatures on Earth, growing in certain cases as long as 40 feet. Unique among snakes, they're not satisfied after eating a victim. They'll regurgitate their prey in order to kill and eat again."
That's a lot, Robin.
Yeah.
Thank you for the crash course on anacondas. I do appreciate it. But I got to say, after last week, I was a little gun shy seeing a text crawl.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I will say, just like 5 seconds of research, that's not true.
I didn't
Yeah,
think
that, yeah. No, it's not.
And it's really
Why do we
odd.
add that in there?
I think because of one thing that we see at the end.
Yeah.
I got up and left.
Yeah, it has to be for that.
Yeah. But the opening credits continue in bold text until rising briefly from below, we get the title, Anaconda, before fading away. But when we return, we're gliding over the wide and expansive Amazon River, the gorgeous glow of sunset reflected radiantly across the water, with innumerable islands and vast vegetation silhouetted against the encroaching dark. As the opening credits continue, a peaceful flute sings in the score over serene shots of surrounding nature before sinister strings descend and the percussion picks up once again. But the camera then slinks around the branches at the river's edge and focuses through them on a boat resting in the body of water. Lights flicker in the windows as the frantic voice of the poacher, played by Danny Trejo, is heard outside.
What are you doing here?
I was so shocked.
Let me be clear. I'm always thrilled to see Danny Trejo, always.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was not expecting this, and seeing him at the very beginning like this, I was feeling like maybe we're not going to see very much of him. And it was making me sad.
I remembered this. I didn't remember that it was him. So seeing it, I was like, what the fuck? And it was the same thing. I was like, oh, yeah, I know he's not in
You're
the rest
not
of
long
this
for
movie. Yeah.
But we find him seated in front of a cluttered desk inside, the low light of a lamp pulsing at his left, and a radio clenched in his hand as he calls for help over the airwaves in English and in Portuguese. Covered in a sheen of nervous sweat, he taps the call box as he pleads and begs for someone to respond. But outside, we hover above the water surrounding the shack, creeping closer and closer as the score grows ever more suspenseful. But inside, an array of animals lose their minds inside of their cages. A small monkey howls with its hands clenched against the wall of its cage, while a collection of colorful birds shriek wildly, their wings flapping fruitlessly for an escape. But the poacher continues his calls on the radio, but his shouts for help are interrupted when something charges the hull of his boat from the outside, causing it to rock uneasily in the open water. Unable to get through to anyone on the radio, the poacher stands, only for the boat to be knocked again by an unseen assailant. Fear filling his face, the poacher reaches for a revolver and a hammer resting on a small shelf at the side of his desk. Just above the shelf rests a newspaper clipping, where above the article, a group of men that we don't see close enough yet are posed for a photo with a large reptile wrapped around their arms. The headline reads, "Looking for anacondas in Portuguese."
Okay.
All right. And we will come back to that.
Yes, we will. We sure will.
But the poacher rushes for a narrow door at the wall of his cabin, nailing a jagged plank of wood across it to bar any intruder from entering. He secures it properly, but as soon as he turns around, the floorboards beneath his feet burst upward, the nails once holding them in place launched eye level in slow motion, but the poacher is only able to watch in disbelief. The pounding continues, the force splintering the wood and causing the poacher to knock his head on the ceiling of the cabin. He returns to the ground, water sloshing at his boots as he tears the barricade open, racing outside, and after clattering to the floor in a frenzied heap, he reaches his feet, climbing a ladder to the deck.
I know the movie's Anaconda. You know, we've already told us what it is. But
Well, we don't know yet.
well,
Yeah,
but that's what
we
I was
don't know
gonna
what's
say,
happening.
But
Yeah.
we don't know right now what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But for that thing to launch him up like that, how big is whatever
Oh.
that's, you know what I mean?
Pretty big.
Yeah.
And doesn't this feel oddly personal?
Oh, yeah. It's pissed.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But he fires a warning shot at his unseen pursuer before pulling himself up to the top of the mast at the center of his ship. He clings to the pole, clutching his revolver as the camera encircles him, the music rising tensely as he glances fearfully over his shoulder. But we face him head on, a look of resolve resting in his weary eyes as he clenches his teeth, and instead of defending himself against his predator, the poacher points the barrel of his gun to his temple. Through the surrounding trees, a gunshot echoes over the water, and we fade to black.
God damn.
Yeah.
So that's a wrap on Danny Trejo,
Yes.
which is disappointing.
Yeah.
Very.
But, I mean, if we're talking about setting up something to be feared,
Right.
we know what we're dealing with here. It's something so formidable that you don't even want to face it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that it was a long time ago, but I've been thinking. Did that say that it eats its prey and then regurgitates it to kill it and eat it again?
That's exactly what
It's
said.
already dead. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, throw me up and eat me again. I'm already dead. I'm not there. Like, that's just really funny.
You're
like,
just
to add
floating.
that into say it in such a ridiculous way.
You're just floating over it embarrassed as a ghost.
Like, oh my God, again?
But it really doesn't even make any sense. Why would the snake even want to do that?
Fun.
Yeah, I don't know. No.
Snakes love it.
It's like, that's how fucking evil it is. It's like, dude, this is ridiculous. You're just off to a bad start.
Yeah.
I think it's that.
But when we fade back in, it's evening. The camera climbs a tall structure through the dark, its random illuminated windows the only source of light, as we get on-screen text reading, Areal Jungle Hotel, Brazil, deep in the Amazon. Inside one of the rooms, we find Terry Flores, played by Jennifer Lopez, seated at a desk in her white nightgown, the glow of her state-of-the-art computer screen cast against her face.
John Paul's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about her in the cell.
We did. You sound
He's
so
like, I'm dead.
disappointed. Yeah. And that's all we need to say.
That was enough.
And it was a state-of-the-art computer.
They're doing their best.
Yeah.
But Terry's research of native customs is interrupted by the loud shriek of a nearby bird. And as she raises her head, puzzled, we're taken back outside, the hotel reflected in the rippling and recently disturbed water as the music and the score honestly kind of overreacts to what we're seeing. I don't understand. Are we supposed to think that the Anaconda has traced them back to the hotel? It's not even the same group. I don't know what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
here.
I don't know.
We're just supposed to be afraid.
Okay.
I think.
Just
but
always.
safe.
Yeah. As long as we're safe, then we'll make the picture. But Terry just returns to her work, jotting down notes on a nearby pad under the light of her lamp. But a brisk knock at the door startles her, and as she reaches for a gray sweater to throw over her nightclothes, a sly smile stretches across her face. She opens the door to her room to find Dr. Stephen Kale, played by Eric Stoltz, standing outside.
Eric Stoltz. He was in Mask in 85.
Mm-hmm.
The Butterfly Effect in 04. And I found something really interesting that I kind of was like, huh. It says that he was Marty McFly in Back to the Future.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I think he was the first Marty McFly.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, they filmed with him for like a month or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, never mind. And they recast him.
That's crazy.
I would never act again.
No,
Yeah.
I would be so depressed and
Oh,
upset.
yeah.
That is so devastating.
You
Yeah.
just take it away.
Yeah. I just always think whenever I see him of Pulp Fiction.
Me too.
Like, prank caller. That's all I think
He
of.
was so good
He
at
really
that. But dressed in khaki with a leather backpack slung over his shoulders, he addresses her. Miss Flores? She smiles in return. Professor Kale, as she invites him inside. As he makes his way past her and into the room, Kale shares that he arrived a couple days ago, and he says that he's already talked to a couple of guides in hope that they might know the whereabouts of their tribe. Closing the door behind him, Terry asks if he had any luck, but Kale sets down his backpack, unzipping it to retrieve a folded map, as he reveals that there's reason enough to suspect that the tribe is definitely out there and can be found and studied. And he adds with a smirk, at least that's what I told the Grant people, which is pretty wild. And never comes up again.
Nah,
No.
we got bigger fish or snakes to fry or whatever.
And what if I don't want to be found? Leave me alone.
Honestly.
Literally, though.
But Kale sets the map down on a table at the center of the room, pointing out where the guide told him that he might be able to find this tribe, noting that between two tributaries, the guide found one of their markers. Terry is pleased to hear this, taking a seat in one of the chairs at the side of the table, and Kale agrees, commenting that he thinks they might have a chance here. Terry puts it simply, "You get me there and I'll shoot it," which is exactly what Kale is counting on, reminding Terry that that's why he hired her. Terry expresses her gratitude for the opportunity, and as Kale takes a seat on an adjacent couch, casually resting his arm against the top of the cushion, he smiles that he wanted the best director he could get. Seemingly sharing a moment as they make eye contact, Kale posits that he thinks they'll make a good team. But as he lifts his leg to rest his boot on the coffee table, Terry notices a large stain of mud at the knee of Cale's pants and asks him what happened. Cale brushes it off as just a small attack of piranha, adding that he barely escaped with his life. Terry chuckles, and that's the abrupt end of that scene.
Yeah. I was like, can we learn a little bit more about that?
Nah.
And where were they? Like, should I be concerned?
No shit.
Yeah.
Seeing these two together, meeting them, it's like, okay, it's a documentary situation going on, which is cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And this is clearly our will they, won't they couple.
Mhm.
Like, to me, they've just met.
Mhm.
They're clearly attracted to each other. Like, how is this going to develop as the film goes on?
Right. And that is something too that I noticed as well in the scene. But it's been a long time since I watched the movie. So watching it, my thought is the same thing. Ooh, you guys, y'all want to hook up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because it does seem very flirty. We were work. I know you through work.
Uh-huh.
And we're professor and miss. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's flirty, but like, we don't know each other like that. That's what I thought.
That's the way they made it seem.
Yes.
But the following morning, we find the Michaela 1, a beaten-down trawler vessel, rusted and worn with age, sailing swiftly through the water and towards a dock. Once the boat is docked, Cale climbs aboard, ascending the levels to reach the helm. But back on the dock, Terry greets Danny Rich, her cameraman played by Ice Cube, who spies the vessel jovially through an eyepiece.
It's Ice Cube. I mean, you know what I mean?
I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I think that he probably, in my view, gives the best performance in the film.
Yeah.
He does a really good job.
No, yeah.
Everybody else is well, not everybody else is a little rude.
A couple people.
A couple people. But Terry remarks that he's up early, and Danny shares the reason why. Today's a good day. I was like, well,
yes.
played.
I see what y'all are doing, and I'm not mad at it in the slightest.
Fiddling with a toothpick in his mouth, Danny adds that it's not every day that his homegirl from the SC gets to direct her own documentary. Flashing a grin, he asks Terry if she's ready. Somewhat unconvincingly, Terry replies that she thinks so. In a poor edit or lack of proper coverage, Danny is now turned 90 degrees to face Terry, to give her a hug and congratulate her. This happens a lot, man.
No, yeah. It's really weird.
The pair share a joyous laugh, but their celebration is interrupted by Cale, who from the deck of the ship calls out to Mateo, played by Vincent Castellanos.
Vincent Castellanos. This man, I know we talked about him in Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
And I recognized him immediately.
You did.
And I was
You did.
like, oh, that's Mateo.
But Danny, after taking a glance over at Cale, jokes that he sees that Terry has made this a pleasure cruise. But as they both grab their equipment and head for the boat, Terry retorts that Danny knows her. She doesn't mix business with pleasure.
Yeah.
We'll see about that.
Yeah.
Literally one night later. But on the deck, Cale draws Mateo's focus to his unfolded map and suggests a route they could take. Mateo, however, disregards Cale's suggestion and instead points out the proper path to take, noting that if they don't take this path, he can't be held responsible. Which is a fucking wild thing to say as the ship's captain.
Yeah.
But he mutters something in Portuguese, and Cale accepts this redirection, noting that it's only 55 kilometers out of the way, which shouldn't be a problem. But he agrees that it's better to be safe than sorry, and after stashing his glasses in his shirt pocket, he beckons Mateo to pass him a pack of cigarettes. As he fishes one from the pack and places it into his mouth, Terry reaches the deck of the ship. After making sure that Mateo can understand her, she asks if he can drift over to a nearby channel so that she can get some shots for the documentary. Mateo looks her up and down, somewhat flirtatiously, as he answers, "As you say, Chefe." But as he returns to the helm, Terry hands Cale a rolled-up piece of paper for his approval. As he unrolls it and peruses it, Terry asks where someone called Westridge is, commenting that she knows that he already checked in. Cale assumes Westridge is probably catching up on his beauty sleep, but almost on cue, Warren Westridge, played by Jonathan Hyde, shouts haughtily at an uncredited deckhand who is carrying his belongings. Careful! He warns the deckhand. Bordeaux, fragile, expensive wine. The deckhand continues on, but Westridge, clutching 2 large leather suitcases, stops on the staircase, exclaiming, Christ! But his demeanor softens when he notices Cale and Terry on the deck, bidding them a gentlemanly good morning.
So he's an asshole.
Yeah, clearly.
This was an interesting introduction. I feel like this whole setup right here where we're meeting everybody, it's like, okay, we're learning their personality, we're learning how they know everybody, and we're learning their job.
Well, yeah.
And this continues
immediately.
for every
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be on this boat.
Yeah, it's
We-
like, let's
we need
get
to know.
all of it out of the way.
Jonathan Hyde. This man, I know I've seen him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Richie Rich in 94, Jumanji in 95,
Jumanji.
and Titanic in 97.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know the life of me. I don't know how many times I've watched Jumanji. And then it dawned on me one day when I was watching it. I was like, oh, the hunter is his dad. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I was like, it's just him in makeup. I was like, wow.
That's pretty wild, isn't this? This is also 97. So he did
Yeah.
Anaconda and Titanic the same year.
Oh, wow.
It's wildly different.
Yeah.
A little bit of this, a little bit of it.
That's rain.
Yeah.
But Cale returns the greeting as he lights his cigarette and asks how Westridge's flight was. Westridge grouses that it was a bloody nightmare, an ongoing one, actually. At the dock, Westridge bumps into Denise Kahlberg, played by Carrie Wurrer, who's going over the inventory for the camera equipment.
So Carrie Wurr.
Yes.
I did not recognize. We've talked about her before.
Mm-hmm.
I did not recognize who she was until I looked her up, and then I felt very, I want to say foolish a little. We talked about her in Thinner.
That's right!
The cinematic masterpiece, Thinner. Like,
Thinner.
Yeah. Just Thinner's
Yeah,
fine.
no.
Yeah, that's fine.
we talked about her in Thinner.
Mm-hmm. Stephen King's Thinner.
She also did Eight-Legged Freaks.
Oh, okay.
Did
Fair
she?
enough.
The whole time you were talking, I felt like the kid in that meme that's like about to burst.
But Westridge drops his suitcases in front of her, demanding, "Stow these in my room, will you?" But Denise responds incredulously, and she informs Weldridge that she isn't the bellhop, she's the production manager.
Oh, okay.
Westridge doubles down, asserting that certainly Denise could manage his things into his room.
That's crazy as fuck.
It's like good wordplay, but no.
No. Oh, yeah.
Managed his foot in your ass. It's rude as fuck.
Yeah.
She returns to her inventory, noting, one pompous ass.
Yes.
But she walks over to a table on the deck where Gary Dixon, played by Owen Wilson, sits in the midst of his own inventory.
Wow.
What? I forgot. Like, I don't know, my mind blocked completely out that he was in this movie.
And I'm trying to think of Owen Wilson's career at
At this
1997.
time,
Right.
yeah.
Because just the inclusion of him, you're like, oh, so yeah, this is going to be a comedy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But no.
But yeah, maybe not yet.
Yeah. But Gary jokes that in some cultures, it's a sign of friendship and respect when someone cares enough to ask you to carry their bags. Denise just brandishes her middle finger, remarking to Gary, "Respect this, sound man." So he's the sound man. That's what-
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm the production director or whatever.
This is when I realized the writing's not great. Because it literally is even from Terry at the beginning. She's like, "Hey, professor." And he's like, "You're the
Hey,
director."
director.
And then all of this here, it's like, what happened to Show Don't Tell, man?
It's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Okay.
And he's like, my homegirl from, it's like, okay, so
Yeah.
you guys
So
know
yeah,
each other.
Yeah.
But Denise gives Gary a playful push, tussling his hair as he relents that it wasn't him who said that. But Terry descends the vessel to introduce herself to Westridge, who removes his hat respectfully to shake her hand. He says that it's a pleasure to meet her and shares that Cale lent him some of Terry's short films. He states that they were, and after mulling it over, he condescendingly decides on very promising.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
What the fuck?
Thanks.
Terry attempts to continue this conversation, but Westridge parks his hat back onto his head, seizing his bags as he exclaims, "God, it's hot. Are we exactly on the equator?"
That's just me here, though.
Yeah, I know.
I can't be mad at him for that.
And they are very close to the equator. I did look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, we on the surface of the fucking sun? It's hot here.
It's too hot. It's too hot. Terry remarks, mostly to herself, "Welcome aboard, I guess." But Cale, having witnessed the exchange, says that he thinks that Westridge likes her, and Terry responds sarcastically, "Oh, you felt that too?" But she walks off, and Cale, the genius that he is, lifts an oxygen tank, the nozzle of which basically touches the level of his lit cigarette.
Jeez.
But nobody says anything about this, so we just keep
It's
going.
fine. Don't embarrass him.
But Danny, who's taken a seat at the stern of the ship, grins that Cale looks like a low-budget-ass Jacques Cousteau. Cale responds jovially in French, which Danny doesn't understand a word of, but the men shake hands, with Cale telling Danny that it's good to see him. So they do have like a clear history.
Yeah.
It kind of seems that way.
If they've all worked together, he knows him enough to greet the cameraman with this kind of a,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Mateo exits the wheelhouse, calling out to Cale and telling him that he's ready to embark on the Rio Negro. Cale tosses his cigarette off the side of the ship, gathering the attention of the group and suggesting that they double-check their gear, make sure that everything is on board, and pray that they didn't forget their bug spray. The music swells in the score as the Micaela 1 undocks and sets sail for the Rio Negro.
That's cool and all. And I know you mentioned it a minute ago. And I'm sure these professionals know what they're doing. This boat seems a little unsafe.
Yeah.
Maybe a little outdated.
Little rickety.
Maybe. Even 97.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get some walls on the side?
No.
I think I think they're just like empty barrels underneath or.
Oh, on the, for the.
Yeah. It's concerning for sure.
I did want to talk about the boats that they used for this film, actually.
Okay.
I read in the production notes that they apparently built the Micaela 1, from the ground up for the production.
Wow.
Okay.
That's impressive because it really does look lived in and
Yeah.
used up
It
and
does.
like rusted out.
And I think that's what impressed me the most is I would think that this is just an old boat that they found in the area.
Yeah.
But in reality, they did use and utilize a lot of old boats that they found in the area. But it was for the purpose of adding when you're thinking about filming on a river as opposed to filming in a soundstage, you need to have places for props, you need to have places for equipment and everything.
Yeah.
And so they found all these old boats and just repurposed them as like storage.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And they also created barges for floor space for all of the crew members.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the old boats that they use, but this one is just completely brand new, built from the ground up to look old.
It does. It
Yeah.
looks good.
They did a great job.
But we find the ship coasting through the expansive river, our crew surveying their surroundings from the deck. Denise and Gary rest casually on the roof of the wheelhouse as if they're sunbathing, while Cale joins Terry, who rests against the railing on the edge of the ship's second level. Westridge, however, passes Danny on the deck to enter the cabin on the first level, and we hear him in voiceover as he recounts over the triumphant strings in the score. Our adventure begins 1,000 miles from the mouth of the mighty Amazon, deep in the heart of the rainforest.
He has a great documentarian voice.
He does.
I will give him that. He was acting a fucking fool earlier, but I see why they brought him on this on this expedition.
And I will say, I didn't really grasp what his purpose was yet because he was the only one that they didn't give.
That's true.
I was like, is this his fucking diary? Like, what's going on? But as the camera hovers above the vessel and it makes its way through vegetation, Westridge continues that from here, they will travel by river barge up through shallow tributaries and unexplored backwaters in search of the elusive people of the mist, the Shirashama tribe, one of the last great mysteries of the rainforest. The shot fades to reveal Westridge performing a scripted stand-up for a portion of Terry's documentary as she stands behind Danny on the deck, who follows Westridge with his camera. Gary arcs the boom mic out of the shot before holding it directly in front of the shot, undoubtedly ruining the shot. But the ship continues onward, through the mist rising from the river and under the watchful eye of an adorable monkey who sits perched on a nearby branch. So as far as the wildlife that we see in the film, we've already seen some birds. We saw some monkeys earlier. A lot of it is snake-based.
Yeah.
Every time we see these monkeys, though, it's very adorable.
You know, the monkeys are so cute.
But in the production notes, one of the producers was telling the story of, I guess, a monkey beat the shit out of her son on the set of this film while they were filming.
What was he doing?
I don't know. But she then said that she later had to climb this tall tower to get cell service to call out.
Yeah.
And when she did, she said a monkey started fighting her, and she says that she thinks it was the same monkey. And it's a wild story.
See, like the elephant that would They shouldn't have taken off his hat that made him super smart.
Oh, yeah.
But after the scene is finished, we reconvene with Gary, who sits on the deck floor at the stern and is promptly joined by Denise, who sits next to him on a crate, crunching numbers on her calculator and jotting down the results on a yellow legal pad. Gary looks over at her, wondering, is it just me? Or does the jungle make you really, really horny? Denise jokes, oh no, I think it's the jungle. Which is not an answer to his question.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either.
But I'm like, this is a pretty sweet gig for a guy with the jungle kink. Good for him. But also keep it to yourself because nobody asked for that.
Sidebar, did you grasp that they're boyfriend and girlfriend?
Not until later.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's just it. From the start they are.
Yeah. I mean, I assumed that later on, but I was like, no, right now, no, not at all. I was just like, chill out, dude. She's trying to work.
But Gary insists that he's serious, claiming that he only has one thing on his mind. Denise just smiles, motioning to her pad and asking Gary if she can just get back to work. But the pair are interrupted by a crash of thunder and a poorly rendered flash of lightning in the sky. But before they know it, a heavy rain descends, blanketing the area in a torrential downpour as a whirling wind whips around them.
This would be so beautiful and so terrifying.
Oh, yeah. From what I understand, they talked a lot about the weather kind of making it difficult to film here. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much of the rain is just actual rain.
Damn.
Okay.
In the wheelhouse, Mateo navigates the ship as Danny documents it all on his camera with Terry at his side. But through the storm and a twisted mess of branches up ahead, the group hears a voice calling out, "Help! Help me! I'm stranded!" The camera pans from the stranded man's perspective, the ship's lights appearing through the rain as he waves a lantern underneath the safety of a tarp, shouting, "My boat is stranded in the roots."
Sucks, dude.
I mean, yeah. Sounds like a YP. Yeah. Never heard it.
Too bad we're at capacity, man.
Yeah.
And all this seems super fucking suspicious as well. That really sucks.
Kale exits the cabin just as the ship rounds the bend, and we see the back half of the stranded boat poking out from the jagged roots. Danny watches through the eyepiece of his camera, directing Terry's attention to the screaming man, and Mateo raises his eyes from his controls to peer out of the wheelhouse window. But on the deck, Kale, Denise, and Gary call out to Mateo, urging him to stop, and we finally see the stranded man head on, waving the Micaela 1 toward him as he cowers from the rain. He clutches a black bag of supplies in his other hand, and we see Paul Cerrone, played by Jon Voight.
It's Angelina's dad.
That's, yeah.
It is. We
That's
can
about
leave it
all
at that.
Yeah.
We can leave it at that.
Yeah.
Kale shouts over the storm, telling Cerrone that they'll bring him on board, and as the ship steers closer, Cerrone tosses his bag over to Kale to catch. His teeth gnashing, Cerrone steels himself to make the leap, landing on his feet in the arms of Gary, the two toppling to the deck floor.
He jumped like a villain.
He did.
That would be enough. Get off my boat.
Mm-hmm.
That's the jump where you're about to have a knife fight.
1,000%.
Right?
1,000. Nothing good has ever resulted from a jump like that.
No.
I don't like it. Get off my boat.
You know that? What is that like Star Trek battle music that they did on?
Oh, yeah.
That's Thriller. That's not.
In my head, it was.
It was the same.
Oh, the dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got there.
Eventually.
It wasn't. I'm trying to think of what it was. It doesn't matter. Let's go.
We paused for like
Move.
5 whole minutes.
Move on.
All right. With Gary on top of him, Cerrone seizes his shoulders, rejoicing. Thank the Lord for you. Thank the Lord. Denise helps Gary to his feet as Cale and Terry join the proceedings, Terry asking Cerrone if he's all right. Cerrone sits up slightly, explaining that his boat's propeller tore off in the roots. Cale breaks the news to Cerrone that they can't take him back to Manau because they're headed upriver, but this seems to be welcome news to Cerrone, who claims to know the people in the next village, and he says that they'll help him fix his boat. Westridge leans his head out of the cabin, eyeing Cerrone suspiciously as he sips a small cup of coffee. Cerrone apologizes to the crew if he'll be trouble for them, but Cale assures him that there's no need to apologize as they're all at the mercy of their machines, and Cerrone's broke. Mateo then makes his way from the wheelhouse, leaning against the doorframe as he peers down at Cerrone, who looks up at him with a sneer that can only be described as villainous.
Cartoonishly so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that too, his face was like, oh, that I think it's then. I'm looking at you. Why are you making that face?
Yeah.
Get off the boat.
And
Yes.
nobody ever is like, what is that?
Yeah.
Get the
why?
fuck out. Like, leave.
They're like, we've got enough supplies for everyone. You see, we've got coffee. Westridge is drinking coffee. Would you like a cup, sir? But Mateo and Cerrone's seeming standoff is interrupted when Cale calls out, Mateo, vámonos. Mateo receives the order, but hesitates a moment before taking his eyes off of Cerrone and returning to the controls.
I know that Mateo is not like part of our crew or whatever, but like he is our guide. He's the one driving the boat.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I'd be like, do you know him? Like, have you seen him before?
Yeah.
Because they're literally staring at each other and they're just like, all right, let's go, guys.
It is that.
It is a little suspicious that I wanted to go this way. You said, no, we have to go this way. We run into this dude and you guys are staring into each other's eyes. I'd be like, what is going on?
Yeah, I also would question that.
Yeah.
What is this look?
Are y'all falling in love or do you know each other?
Or are you going to fight?
Yeah.
one or the other.
What's happening?
Honestly, the only thing missing is like a wink and a finger gun.
Yeah.
Cerrone then reaches his feet, looking over at Westridge, still sneering, as thunder crackles overhead and Westridge recedes back into the cabin. But we suddenly find the ship anchored in the river, the camera dipping down from the tall trees to find the crew assembled on the deck, watching Cerrone, who sits perched upon adjacent branches, a long spear clenched in both of his hands as he eyes the water below. In a swift jab, Cerrone suddenly plunges the spear into the water, retrieving a wriggling fish from the depths of the river on its pointed end. He boasts, "Fish! River style!" And I laughed. It's
Sure.
from the river.
Yeah.
Are we eating it like that?
Jump in. But the crew stands impressed, Terry even commenting that they'll have to get that on film next time. But back on the ship, as Cerrone fillets his fresh catch with a sharp blade on a cutting board, Terry asks, "You ever work in a sushi bar, Mr.?" This is when Cerrone introduces himself properly, and Cale asks where he hails from. Cerrone answers that he's from Paraguay, and that he started out studying for the priesthood, but then he needed to see the real world, so he ended up in the jungle. He pounds the blade with a wooden log to crack through the bones of the fish as he adds, I seem to fit. Westridge wonders what a failed priest does in the jungle, and Cerrone isn't so sure that he's failed, insisting that he didn't. And Westridge just smiles. I'm sure you didn't.
Okay. This guy's fun.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be awesome.
Also, didn't you just shatter bones into the entire fish by doing that? You're
That's
supposed
river
to-
style.
You gotta crunch through some bones, too. I don't prefer river style. It
No,
seems-
not really.
But Kale, who sips from a cold glass of water, asks Cerrone what his calling is now, to which Cerrone replies, snakes. Danny responds incredulously, and Cerrone explains that he catches them for zoos and collectors, whatever they want. But Terry has a more nefarious label for this occupation, poaching. Cerrone counters that poaching is illegal, but quickly changes the subject.
Yeah, that doesn't answer the question.
He's like, don't call it that.
Yeah. So that's what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But he asks Terry and the crew what they're hunting. Westridge, uncorking his bottle of Bordeaux, corrects Cerrone that they're not hunting or trapping anything, with Kale adding that they're making a documentary on the Shirishama tribe, which inspires a grin from Cerrone, who asks, the people of the mist? Kale, who is now tightening the small screws of his sunglasses with a pocket knife, takes this to mean that Cerrone has heard of them, but Cerrone does him one better, answering that he's seen them. This, of course, piques Kale's interest, and he asks if Cerrone can show him where this was. Cerrone, flipping the fish on the cutting board, succinctly offers, you people saved my life. It's the least I can do. And he adds that he'll show them exactly where he saw the tribe.
I feel like the least you could do is stop glaring at everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd also appreciate you showing us where.
Is that like a compliment sandwich?
Yes.
Like, stop sneering at everybody, but thank you.
But thank you for offering.
Westridge, however, is unconvinced, sniding. So slurs every other river rat after 5 whiskeys in Manau. He urges Kale not to believe Cerrone, but Cerrone retorts that 5 whiskeys is merely breakfast on the river. That's drinking river style.
We're learning a lot.
But after her prep is complete, Denise asks Cerrone if salad goes well with fish, river style, and Cerrone smirks. A salad would be perfect, little baby bird.
Get him off my boat.
That's frightening.
Yes!
It is. It's very funny.
Yes.
Because it's like, you're a fucking creep.
Yes.
And me and my brother used to say this to each other to bother each other.
Uh-huh.
Because it's like, come on, that guy was you look at him.
Yeah. Something, I did see this interview with Randy Edelman, the composer, and he had talked about how whenever he was scoring the film, he said that he did, of course, there are scenes of terror and thrills and everything, just meeting the moment with the proper music. But he said that one thing that he saw in this film that nobody else seemed to see, as far as the producers, the director, or anyone, was that, at least with Cerrone, the film's a fucking comedy. And so he said that he a lot of times would punctuate Cerrone's scene with some like humorous frills.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I see very clearly that this performance is meant to be hilarious, right? But nobody else saw that.
They're like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
The man's frightening.
Yeah.
No.
That's why.
It's ridiculous. I love that he's the only one that is like, wait.
Yeah.
Are you guys joking?
But he said he went to the premiere and like everybody was just like, no, this is very clearly like a thriller and a
Yeah.
action adventure horror.
It's like, oh, I got to make some
Yeah.
edits.
Excuse me.
Don't show this film to me.
Yeah. But we cut to the Micaela 1 sailing off into the sunset as Tipsy Daisy by Ziggy Marley begins to play, while inside the cabin, Denise sways to the reggae rhythm as Gary rolls a joint and Danny lights one up himself while reclining in a hammock. But out on the deck, it's a much different vibe as Terry pours through documents in a binder while seated at a table next to Kale, who works on his laptop.
This is the second scene in the film where her nips are just blasting, which is so like very 90s. They did that all the time in the 90s. But I'm like, they really told Jennifer Lopez that she could leave her eyebrows at home, but make sure she packed her nips, which was really funny to me.
It's all hips and nips. Otherwise,
we're not eating.
But their workflow is interrupted when Kale notices an array of lights off in the distance, blinking brightly in the darkness, and he directs Terry's attention to it. They walk together toward the railing, Terry recognizing the nighttime anomaly as fireflies, and Kale admires them with her. As their small specks illuminate in the night sky, Kale comments, "Family Lampyridae." And he notes that on certain nights, they'll gather in the same tree and use their light flashes to announce their readiness to mate. The two smile at each other, and Terry wonders who flashes first, the males or the females. Kale answers that it's both, the females with a series of short, dainty, feminine little flashes about 8 per second, and then the males respond with a series of long, drawn-out, manly flashes. Terry mulls this over for a moment before admitting that she likes the sound of it. No pickup lines, no misunderstandings, just instinct and nature. The pair share a moment of silence before Kale reaches softly for Terry's shoulder as they lock eyes. He tells her sincerely, "I missed you." And Terry softens, leaning in closer to kiss Kale, a kiss that continues and grows deeper and deeper.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we kind of already knew when they were flirting, but it wasn't.
But not like that.
Yeah,
I miss you?
Yeah. That's a lot of history.
Yeah.
But through the dark, we spy the Michaela 1 in POV. It would have been fine to keep it there.
Mm-hmm.
But we then see the sinister, scale-covered head of an anaconda poking through the vegetation.
Oh.
Yeah. This, again, it seems too personal.
It's like that monkey.
Yeah.
It's river style. That's how they take things very personally.
I had put in my notes for my script, I said they should have really taken notes from Jaws, not showing him too early, have it from POV and everything. Only coming to find out that the cinematographer for this film was Bill Butler, who shot Jaws.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually have a pretty interesting quote about Jaws.
Really?
Yeah, that's odd that you mentioned that because I did not know that about the cinematographer. Now, we haven't seen any of these effects yet, but we will. And it was Walt Conti that made the animatronic Anaconda. He did Free Willy, The Abyss, Flipper, Deep Blue Sea.
Oh.
Okay.
Super accomplished. Like we said at the top, the animatronics are really fucking cool.
Yeah.
But I have this quote from him that I was like, oh, okay. In the days of Jaws, less was more because you didn't have the technology to show more. Today, 1997, because of the great advances in visual effects technology, more can truly be more. You can show your monster and make it believable.
Okay.
So that I just wanted to share that with the class.
Not really the mentality I would have going into this.
No.
Yeah, no.
But it was an interesting take.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm writing that down.
Hot take.
Yeah.
Hot one, yes.
But taking cover behind an array of leaves, the anaconda slithers around the underbrush to find a slick black panther at the river's edge, munching on a small meal. The panther lifts its head at the sound of movement, but upon noticing nothing in its vicinity, lowers its head again to continue eating. But suddenly, the long body of the snake wraps around the feline's torso, seizing and cinching around it as the camera twists around them wildly. The anaconda thrashes the poor cat, who hisses and struggles to no avail, the life eventually squeezed out of it as it's dragged away through the rustling of dry leaves, and we press in on the panther's unfinished meal on the ground, a small piece of half-eaten fruit. No, I don't know why everything went black and white for one frame. No, I don't know the importance of the fruit. Yes, it was hilarious to get a reaction shot from the cat.
Yes.
No, that was great. He was very surprised.
He couldn't believe it.
Very
It was
surprised.
that for me.
Yeah.
That's what reads comedic.
Yes.
That's
How do
so
you not?
funny.
Come on.
It is funny, but that's not what they were going for.
No.
That's what makes it.
Like, this is to show how fierce this thing
Yeah.
is. It's like, no. That cat gasped.
Yeah, he did.
He wasn't expecting it.
But the next morning, as Faux Life by Mac 10 blasts from a boombox, the sun rises over the crew of the Michaela 1, with Denise, Gary, and Danny gathered on the deck with Westridge, who practices his golf swing on a strip of artificial green.
What we decided to pack for this trip is kind of wild.
Yeah. He had 2 very big suitcases, though. And I will say, I think Ice Cube produced or co-wrote or maybe both this song.
They were in a super group, West Side Connections. Fantastic. Wonderful music. Mac 10's fucking great, too. So is Dub C. Him and Mac 10 haven't talked to each other for like 10, 15 years.
Oh, damn.
I'm not really sure of the story. What the interview I watched of Ice Cube is some kind of disagreement, and I guess things were taken the wrong way. But yeah, when they work together, it's magic.
I wonder if it's his idea to include it on the soundtrack.
Oh, maybe. He's like, no, nuh-uh. He's like, I don't want that there.
But when Westridge flubs a shot, he blames Danny's music and storms over frustrated to turn the volume down. Danny, cleaning his fingernails with a pocket knife, scolds Westridge, warning him not to touch his music before he reaches over to turn it back up. Westridge just returns to the artificial green, but he suddenly has a change of heart, marching back over to the boombox to turn the volume down again, only to have his hand smacked by Danny. Incensed, Westridge places a hand on his hip, threatening that he could cheerfully hire someone to kill Danny. A local tribesman, perhaps. Danny leans forward in his chair as Westridge adds that $50 should cover it.
Your music is too loud. I could pay to have you killed.
Yeah.
It's wild.
That was the escalation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Danny counters that he could kill Westridge for free right now, miming the slicing of his throat with the pocket knife.
I mean, they are here now.
Yeah.
Westridge just storms off annoyed, muttering under his breath, "You and whose army?" And Danny retorts, "Your mama's." Now, I feel like the snake is going to win because the crew is not united.
Yeah, no.
But at the bow of the vessel, Terry approaches Cerrone, who stands there with his arms crossed, asking him if they're close to where he met the Shirishama tribe. Cerrone simply raises his hand to the path before them, assuring her in a half New York, half-assed Paraguayan accent that it's just around the bend.
Thank you. Yes. This is where I have, what is happening with this accent?
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of Real Housewives in New Jersey, and I was getting that. I was getting New Orleans.
It is all over the place.
It's whatever he wants it to be.
It varies from scene to scene.
Yeah.
That's what I was like, what direction were we given? What the hell is going on?
They're just kind of letting him do whatever he wants.
Yeah, just be creepy.
He needed to be reeled in.
But Terry is pleased to hear this, and we suddenly cut to a variety of vegetation lining the riverbank, the camera rising above the slick bark of a tree to discover that the wood has been cleanly carved into the shape of a man's face, with a large snake wrapped around his neck and the head of the slithering creature resting atop his scalp. Cale takes notice of this through his binoculars from the deck of the boat, remarking that it's a snake totem. As Danny rolls film on this discovery, Cerrone explains that this snake totem is Shirishama, informing the crew that the tribe worships giant snakes, anacondas, as gods and protectors. In a half-Italian, half-assed Paraguayan accent, Cerrone reveals that there's a legend they passed down of a journey to a sacred lake. First, you must pass a waterfall protected by warrior snakes, and once you pass those guardians, you travel through the land of the Shirashama until you come to a wall so high that it blots out the sun. Kale takes over the tale from there. You follow that wall for 5 days, finally reaching its end, the head of a giant anaconda. Cerrone seems impressed that Kale knows the story, and Kale calls it a beautiful legend, but condescendingly, as he returns to his binoculars, corrects Cerrone that it's actually a legend belonging to a different tribe. Cerrone insists that it also belongs to the Shirashama, but Kale once again disagrees.
I really appreciated Kale chiming in here.
Mm-hmm.
He is the expert.
Yeah.
And it really felt for a second like we were just blindly following Cerrone, who was never a part of these original plans.
Right.
So the fact that he's like, no, I know what I'm talking about and I know where we're going. I know what we're doing and you're incorrect. I really did appreciate that. And also I'm like, oh, so he's lying? Or he's a fraud, or like what is happening here?
No, he's lying. You got caught. Throw him off the boat. That was it. That's it.
He should have been thrown off the boat at least 5 times. But
Yeah, just for looking at me like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No, you're gone.
Cerrone, river style.
Yeah.
Splash.
But Cerrone takes the L on the chin, directing the crew's attention up ahead, assuring them that though the river is high now, they should find the Shirashama just down this fork. He insists that he knows, as he traps snakes for a living.
I should know. I'm a poacher.
Yeah.
I mean,
But Kale smiles, sure that Cerrone is very good at that. But he reminds Cerrone that he locates tribes for a living, and he's very good at that.
oop.
Yeah.
He crunched his face a little bit.
Oh, yeah. But Kale agrees that the water level is high, which by his calculations would lead him to believe that the area to the right would be flooded, forcing the tribe to seek higher ground to the left. When Mateo calls out from the wheelhouse, asking which way to go, Kale defies Cerrone's instructions and directs Mateo to the left. And speaking of giving direction, Terry assembles her crew in order to get a shot of Westridge in front of the snake totem. As they line up the shot and Gary rolls sound, Cerrone walks away from Kale, with Mateo eyeing him suspiciously from above. Terry calls action on the shot, and through the lens of Danny's camera, Westridge stands in the foreground with the totem over his shoulder, announcing that this is their first piece of luck, a Shirashama idol. He shares that it's the subject of some dispute, but before he can continue, Cerrone marches directly in front of Westridge, blocking the shot, shouting defensively that he knows what he knows and they can accept it or reject it. And then he asks to be left at the next village.
I'll leave you at this village.
Yeah.
This is Village River style.
Yeah.
I like literally, who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah.
Terry calls cut, which made me laugh because it's like, yeah, of course.
Duh.
But Cerrone walks toward the cabin, and Westridge answers his request with pleasure. Terry turns to Kale, wondering what Cerrone's outburst was all about, and all Kale can do is shrug. But we watch as the trawler sails through the mist rising from the Amazon River. But that night, Terry sits with Danny at a table on the deck, enclosed in a mosquito net. They're joined by Denise and Gary, who clutches a parabolic microphone, as Denise explains that they're going to head out to capture some wild sounds. Terry urges them to be careful as the couple exits out of the other side of the net and off the boat, but the camera pulls back, refocusing to reveal that inside the cabin, Cerrone relaxes in the hammock, a sneer on his face that can only be described as villainous.
I'm not sleeping with this guy here.
No.
Maybe he just always looks like that.
I don't care. Get out.
But out in the jungle, as Gary takes a drag from his joint, Denise guides their way with the beam of her flashlight. Once they reach a clearing, Denise secures the flashlight between two branches as the whistling breeze, rhythmic bird songs, and the buzzing of various bugs encircle them harmoniously. Denise stands in awe of what she's hearing through her headset. I will say the whole point of this scene is to collect these natural sounds.
Right.
But the entire time that they're out here, the flute in the score is working overtime.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's a natural sound.
I guess, but goddamn. But after a mere moment of work, Denise seems ready to get down to business.
She's looking for another kind of anaconda.
Oh, right.
But so it is the jungle.
No,
Yeah.
You're horny?
He was like, I told you.
Tearing the headphones from her ears, she chuckles as she beckons Gary closer. With very I thought you'd never ask energy, Gary embraces her and the pair share a passionate kiss. But we arc around a nearby tree in a POV shot, just as the couple is getting hot and heavy. But as the leaves behind them begin to rustle, Denise stops Gary, asking him if he heard it. Denise then answers the question that Gary didn't ask, telling him the silence. He never said what. He never, And it isn't silent at all because that flute is still.
Well, they can't hear that. We hear that.
I guess.
Right.
It is ridiculous, but again, for me, I didn't mind this because they are out there for sound, and for her to notice that the sound is gone.
They're paying attention.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
But suddenly, in a POV shot, something charges at them through the trees, and the pair take off running, only to come face to face with Cerrone, who stands between branches, aiming through the sight of his rifle and pulling the trigger. So we're obviously supposed to think that it was the anaconda knocking about, chasing them. If you watch this film with subtitles, you do get sound descriptions like boar roaring and boar shrieking. So,
I think it might not be the anaconda.
No.
But back inside the boat's cabin, the echo of gunfire tears Cale away from his laptop, and he arms himself with a revolver, loading it as he exits toward the deck.
You know Kel keeps that thing on him.
He crosses through the mosquito net, an animalistic shriek emanating from nearby. It's a boar. But he's promptly joined by Mateo and Terry, who ask him what that sound was. But Cale doesn't know because he doesn't have the subtitles turned on.
Right.
But as he aims his revolver into the trees, Danny and Westridge join the party. At Cale's direction, Mateo shines a beaming spotlight toward the jungle, discovering Cerrone slinking through the trees, dragging the carcass of a boar behind him and back onto the boat.
Maybe we shoot anyway.
He was turning into a monster.
An anaconda.
Yeah. But Cerrone is followed by Gary and Denise, and as he catches his breath, Cerrone notes that the couple are fortunate to be alive. Gary can't contain his amazement at Cerrone's accurate shooting, and as the camera pushes in dramatically on Cerrone, he announces, "Wild boar." Great.
River style or no?
No, jungle style.
Yeah.
He warns that it gores with its tusks and goes for the eyes. After Terry checks in with her crew, ensuring that they're all right, Cale institutes a new rule. From now on, everybody stays on board at night. No exceptions.
Good rule.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And to his credit, Cerrone, in a half Tony Montana impression, half-assed Paraguayan accent, tells Cale that it's a smart idea. But he then suggests to Mateo that they butcher the wild boar, noting that it could be food for a week. This confuses Danny, who asks, "Food?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But that thing's got to be all tough, man. You know,
Probably.
running around out there. It's just trying to eat. It's probably got a family, and then you shot him.
I mean,
You know,
well, he
man,
shouldn't have
He
attacked.
he was doing a lot.
Yeah.
He was doing a lot.
He ruined their good time.
Yeah, he did. All right.
Yeah, and you really like
No, but it was dark. He didn't know what was happening.
going back to the Babadook. That's you're historically very against that.
But the following morning, we find the Micaela 1 in an overhead shot sailing through the Amazon as opera music bursts triumphant through Westridge's speakers as he successfully practices his golf swing. Cale shaves his face on the opposite side of the deck, guiding his razor in a handheld mirror as Cerrone hovers over Danny, Denise, and Gary, who play cards at the center table. But suddenly, a rope tied at the stern of the ship becomes tangled in the boat's propellers, growing taut and grinding the vessel to a halt.
There, I rewound it one time or two because when that happened, right before Cerrone looks back, and then we cut to them getting stuck. So I almost was like, did he kick it over and I didn't see? Did he do this? But he does right before he looks back at something, and then we get the next, real quick to where the rope's cut. So I wonder if he was supposed to, or if it doesn't.
I also feel like we get a lot of unnecessary reaction shots from him.
Yeah.
Like nothing is happening. We don't need to see him all.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like,
okay.
Why are you always doing that? The crew lurches forward from the impact of the abrupt stop, Westridge dramatically shouting at Mateo, "Do you have any control of the ship? Lie if you must." I was like, come the fuck. Like, Jesus Christ, we're all dealing with it. All of us.
The drama is why we brought him here.
Yes.
You have to take the bad with the good.
Danny calls out to Mateo in a more productive manner, alerting him about the rope and the propeller. At this, Cerrone offers a very interested, guilty as hell.
Yeah.
But Mateo marches down to inspect the rope, and when he can't pull it loose with his bare hands, he curses. Cale wipes the remaining shaving cream from his face, realizing that he's going to have to cut them loose. But Cerrone stops him, and in a half Christopher Walken impression, half-assed Paraguayan accent, he says that it's maybe better that he does it, adding that this river can kill you in 1,000 ways.
I'd want him to fix it, but I'd also be afraid he would rig the engine to explode when he needs it to.
If anybody is going in that water, it should be him, but I also, I don't trust him to do it.
And it's very odd that he's volunteering.
Yes.
That's suspicious. Cale insists, though, that he can handle it, and Mateo cuts his eyes. And I don't know who he cuts his eyes at because the shot coverage is ridiculous and I can't tell.
Yeah.
Could go either way. Either it's at Cerrone's insistence or at Cale's confidence.
Yeah.
But Cerrone silently relents, but in a very suit-yourself sort of way, as Cale gathers an oxygen tank and the scuba equipment. As he suits up, he admits that the only thing he's really afraid of is the Condorou Aku, a tiny little catfish that swims up your urethra, finds a nice warm spot, spreads its thorny little spines, and refuses to budge. We just talked about this little rat bastard.
I think on Inferno.
Yeah.
No. That's why I will never get in some fucking water like this.
No. Cerrone adds that you have to cut it out, and he mimes his fingers like scissors, tasked to do the deed. This is enough for Danny, who announces that he's getting the hell back to L.A., which would be me.
Yeah.
But we cut to Cale, diving flippers first into the river. Tense music rises in the score as he swims his way over to the propeller at the other end of the boat, taking a knife to the twisted tangle of rope he finds there. But before he can cut the blades free from the rope, he looks over his shoulder, and we spy him in a POV shot through the murky water.
I hated this. I was hoping for him to cut above the just not right in the blades.
Yeah.
It felt a little too close to giant garbage disposal for me.
Yeah.
But it made me very anxious for him. I did not like that one bit. He's like, I'll just go directly into the center of these blades. I'm like, what are you doing?
On the deck, Terry very leisurely collects her hair into a ponytail, wiping the sweat from the back of her neck before she can tie it up. But she lifts her eyes to discover, with a musical sting, that Cerrone is intently focused on her, his head tilted upward, sneering in a way that this time can be described as both villainous and a bit lascivious.
Ew, why? It's gross.
Yeah.
Terry just continues putting her hair back, and Cerrone does not break his gaze.
It was that for me. Like, you lock eyes, usually they'll like look away. He was like, no, I was looking and I'm going to continue to. Like, get him down in those blades.
But down below, the score oscillates around Kale, who is finally able to get the propeller loose from the rope. But suddenly, to plodding percussion, the professor begins to twist and writhe beneath the water, clutching his throat. His hands splash above the surface, alerting the crew to his plight, and when Terry rushes to the edge to dive into the water to Kale's rescue, she's stopped by Danny and Gary, who jump off the edge of the boat in her stead and swim for Kale. Cerrone watches the proceedings from a distance. He's sneering. He's always sneering.
Yes. Yeah.
But the men reach Kale and carry him back to the boat. Terry, filled with fear and concern, urges the men to hurry and tells them to be careful as they lift Kale back onto the deck. Cerrone joins the fray, surrounding Kale with the rest of the crew, telling Denise to grab a towel to rest under his head. Terry trembles tearfully that Kale isn't breathing, and when Mateo kneels by his side with the others, he notices that there's something in Kale's mouth. As they lift his jaw open, the waxy wings of a large insect protrude from between Kale's lips, and Mateo reaches in to pull it out, recognizing it as a wasp and adding dramatically, deadly, poisonous.
Clearly it's a death's head moth.
Uh-huh.
No, but it made me laugh because everybody is like horrified by this discovery, and Ice Cube goes, damn, what's that?
A little more casual.
Yeah, he's like, wow, man.
That's crazy.
But how'd that big ass thing get in your mouth without you noticing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, and also you had, that doesn't even make any sense because you had the scuba stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he was clutching his throat before he even got onto the...
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of explained later, but it's
No.
not.
Yeah,
It's not at all explained.
No.
Kind of is so generous.
It is.
I was going to say that.
It's mentioned later.
Yeah.
We'll say that it's explained in the faculty kind of way. But recognizing the problem, Terry desperately seeks a solution as Kale still isn't breathing. But out of the corner of his eye, Cerrone spies a pin on a nearby desk, seizing it, unscrewing it, and securing the barrel of it. He asks for alcohol, and Mateo pours whiskey from his flask onto Cerrone's pocket knife and the pilfered pin.
I don't know if that's
Enough.
Yeah.
But I was surprised nobody is trying CPR. Like we're jumping to this immediately and letting this dude do it.
I think that's what was a little weird for me after the scene plays out was just that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a little concerned that Mateo is driving us around with a flask of whiskey up there.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point. Because that could be why we're in this mess.
Yeah, honestly. I did laugh because after watching Cerrone get this part of the pin, have his knife ready, they pour alcohol on both items. Terry holds Kale's head still and asks, "What's that for?"
Yeah.
I'm just going to draw a picture real quick.
But Cerrone readies the blade, and Mateo pulls down the collar of Kale's shirt. Cerrone then sinks the blade in, perforating a small hole and securing the plastic pin tube inside of it. And we hear a rhythmic hissing sound from Kale's throat as he begins to breathe again. Terry rejoices, kissing Kale's cheek as Cerrone assures her and the crew that Kale is going to be all right.
Great. Now he's a fucking hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They bring Kale into the cabin, where he rests in bed as Terry and Denise dress his fresh wound.
I know, again, we're talking about his face being stuck the same way and him being a villain, but this is what kind of, it's like, you did save him.
He did.
And
Yeah.
it didn't seem like a part of your plan. It just seemed like you saved him to save him. You weren't happy about it, but you did it.
That's the thing is, as this goes on, I'm very confused as to what that was for.
Yeah.
I think, maybe...
To gain trust?
I would say trust and also control.
Okay.
Yeah, but just let him die.
Well, but that's too far.
Is it?
Well, I don't
This
know.
dude fucking sucks.
He does, and we'll learn more. But sometime later, Terry returns to the deck from the cabin, and Danny descends the stairs from the wheelhouse to meet her as she joins up with the rest of the crew. She reports that Cale seems okay and that they should leave now, but Danny doubts this plan, reminding her that their radio doesn't work and that they have no communications. I was not aware of this.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
When did that happen?
At this point, I was just like, oh, okay.
Like, that sucks, man.
Damn. This timing is terrible.
But Mateo grows defensive, telling Danny that he can't fix it. And as he goes on a diatribe in Portuguese, Cerrone clutches the tangle of rope that once bound the propeller in his fist, alerting the others that they can start the ship now. But Mateo ends his annoyed rant with the word fog. And as the camera arcs around him and Cerrone, we see the boat is surrounded by an occluding mist. But Cerrone insists that if they don't get Cale to a hospital soon, they might as well just throw him in the river. Danny can't believe what he's hearing and suggests that the ship's lights will be enough to guide them through the fog. Terry agrees, and consulting the map, she directs Mateo to double back the way that they came. Cerrone warns, however, that fighting the current will add 2 days to their journey. He then drags his knife across a proposed path that he says will save them 50 miles. Just want to point out that Paraguay uses the metric system, and we've been talking about kilometers the whole film. I don't know why he said miles.
Because he's from Jersey. I already told you that. And I don't know what he says, but I have in my notes, he had no accent at all with that line.
No, he didn't. But Terry recognizes Cerrone's route as the one that he suggested that they take yesterday. And Cerrone admits that when he mentioned it yesterday, it was for a different reason. But now, their concern is getting Cale to a hospital as fast as possible.
That makes no fucking sense.
Nope.
It doesn't, and he also doesn't explain what his other reason was. He just says that, and everyone's like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
That was for something else.
But Terry accepts this as Danny sidles up to her, concerned about this new plan, stating that he hopes that she knows what she's doing because he isn't so sure about Cerrone.
Yeah.
But Terry isn't so sure that she has a choice at all.
Here's an option. It'll be a choice. Let's just ask Mateo. He's the fucking boat driver. He's doing this. We're paying him to bring us out here. Even he said, if you take that route, I can't guarantee. So you know what we're going into. Hey, Mateo, is it 2 days back, or what do you think? If we go through here, what?
He's just like, where do you want me to go, Chief?
Yeah, that's it.
And that is wild. I make documentaries for a living.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about the Amazon.
Absolutely not.
You
and
tell
the guy,
me.
the guy that did is laid up now.
Yeah. But the ship ventures on through the night, its exterior lights carving a path through the foreboding fog. We get a shot of Cerrone standing on the deck of the ship beneath a red bulb, while Terry keeps watch of the incapacitated Cale inside of the cabin.
I have in my notes here that shot of him, the way that they keep showing him looking so cartoonishly evil.
Mm-hmm.
Either this is the most heavy-handed villain ever, or it's a red herring and he's just a fucking weird guy, and we're going to find out later that he was trying to help. Okay. And I would have enjoyed that more, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, we know, we get it from the second we meet him. It's like, this guy is bad.
Yeah.
Like,
it's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah, you didn't even try to hide it for a second.
No. Make him endearing. Make him funny. Make it something. I know he caught them that dinner, but he was still fucking weird then.
Yeah.
Like, give us something, and then maybe slowly it's weird, or he says something off, or he keeps pushing for us to go down this tributary or something. But it was just like right off the gate, I knew literally from that jump onto the boat,
yes.
you're bad.
Yeah.
But the next morning, the camera finds the vessel sailing on, dipping down from high trees to discover a massive wooden barricade blocking their path ahead in the river. The crew assembled on the deck. Danny calls Terry over to assess the obstacle. But she turns her attention to Cerrone, who's currently devouring a peach, sloppy style. And she asks him in annoyance, "This is the river you know?"
I just want to say about the peach that Castor Troy would be proud.
That's right.
But go on.
Cerrone admits that this is new, but he assures her that it's no cause for panic. Terry retorts that she isn't panicking. She's just looking at a wall that's blocking this river that Cerrone knows. Retrieving some supplies from his pack, Cerrone suggests that they just see what they can do. Gary looks on like, "What's all that stuff you're grabbing to?"
Well, he sounds excited.
No, but he does take notice of what Cerrone has stashed in his bag. Sticks upon sticks of dynamite. He asks Cerrone if it's real, and Cerrone just offers that it's always good to be prepared. Danny wonders for what, and Terry is flabbergasted at what she's hearing from Cerrone, insisting that this barricade has to be there for a reason. Cerrone agrees, but is sure that it's just to keep them out. It's like, the reason is it's trying to stop us.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But Terry is more concerned about upsetting the ecological balance of the river by exploding dynamite. But Cerrone gives Terry a choice. Either he blows the dynamite in 10 minutes, or they can turn around and lose 2 days. It's up to her. Terry thinks it over, but clearly loses the confidence of her crew, with Denise vaguely hinting her preference toward the dynamite, until Westridge makes it a little more obvious when he shouts, "For God's sake, just blow the bloody thing." Cerrone holds both of his hands up, a finger for each of the minutes that he claims to require. But he asks for a little help from the crew, and we then cut to Gary descending from a small dinghy with the sticks of dynamite in his possession as he swims through the water in front of the barricade.
Why am I doing this?
I don't
Yeah.
know. Cerrone stands on top of it, untangling the wire for the charges, but the camera dips down to the edge of the barricade, where within the wood we see the neatly carved face of a man, and with a musical flourish, we discover that resting atop his head is the large and menacing face of an anaconda.
Well, that's not good.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm starting to think these are warning signs.
Yeah.
no. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I will say, at this point in the film, I'm like, for a film fucking called Anaconda,
When are we going to get to the fireworks
yeah.
factory?
we're getting a lot more John Voight. But as Gary struggles to secure the dynamite beneath the barricade, something stalks him through the water, inching closer and closer. But before it can get too close, Cerrone lifts Gary by his arm out of the water and onto the barricade. Gary trembles that there's something in the water, and Cerrone agrees. Gary then levels with Cerrone that he really means it, and Cerrone replies that he means it too. I thought he was going to throw him back in the water.
Yeah.
I have in my notes, did anybody think he was going to say, "So was I," and then drown him?
Yeah.
Because that's the vibe.
Mm-hmm. And if he is telling you, "Oh no, yeah, there's something in there," maybe let's go share this with the crew.
It's like, no, we'll keep this to ourselves.
Yeah.
But instead of him tossing him in the water like we thought, we just see the pair riding safely back to the boat in the dinghy, the dynamite and the charges placed for the detonation with the fuses sizzling. When they make it back to the boat, they climb aboard to rejoin the crew, with Danny filming every moment for the documentary. They all watch, Gary clinging to Denise's arm as the dynamite explodes, a ball of fire bursting and destroying the barricade, sending debris raining down all around and on top of the Michaela 1, crushing their dinghy and sending several drums of fuel rolling into the river, with Cerrone's stunt double unable to stop it.
I spotted one later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was cackling. I was like, that is not his face at all.
But even worse, from the blast, the deck is now covered in countless slithering snakes. And we know this because Danny looks around and shouts, "These are snakes!" Which, thank you.
Yeah.
Just in case.
And can we throw him off yet?
No, I guess not. As the crew recoils in horror, Cerrone offers reassuringly that the snakes are only babies. Terry asks how they're supposed to get them off the boat, and Cerrone begins to rally them, scooping them up in piles and tossing them back into the river, urging them to go back to their mama. But as one slinks around a vine and turns to face Gary menacingly with a half-eaten frog in its mouth, Gary mutters that some of the snakes aren't babies. Mateo makes use of a hose to spray the snakes from the deck floor back into the river, but only succeeds partially as he seems to spray the feet of the crew more than the slithering intruders. But Westridge attempts to remain calm in the crisis, but somehow a small snake has wriggled around his wrist, unhinged its little jaw, and sunk its fangs into his index finger. He curses as he grips his wrist, and as Cerrone just stands there smiling at this, Terry urges him to help Westridge. Cerrone finally saunters over slowly as Westridge, clearly edited to take out the F-bomb, screams for someone to get this bloody thing off of his freaking hand. I saw this several times of the fuck word being replaced with freaking or like whatever, and I didn't even realize until I saw it so many times, Anaconda is rated PG-13.
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah.
But clearly that was not the original intention then.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But we talked about that before, trimming it down to make it more, so more people can go and see it.
Yeah.
But I think what we ended up with, definitely a PG-13 movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say so. But Westridge whips his hand back and forth to shake the creature free, but Cerrone seizes his wrist, admiring the small snake cinched securely on his finger, remarking, "So young and yet so lethal." Westridge pleads in pain for Cerrone to get it off of him, and as strings trill in the score somewhat playfully, Cerrone finally plucks the snake off of Westridge's finger, tossing it casually into the river with a, "Later, sweetie." What the hell is...
All right. Yeah.
And nobody... Why doesn't anybody find it odd that he is just holding Westridge and admiring it as the snake is fucking... Like, what is going on?
I don't know.
But Westridge clutches his injured finger, and he accuses Cerrone of knowing that there were snakes in the water before the explosion, but Cerrone just calls it a pleasant surprise. Terry asks, what about the fuel? With Denise noting that there's only one drum left, which should be enough for 100 kilometers.
So the containers just fell in the water?
Yeah.
Are we not going to retrieve them?
They're too heavy.
Oh. It's like the containers are wet. We got it. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't see them pour out.
No.
I just saw them roll off the boat.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie. I think that would be really heavy to try to pull all of those out.
I
Just
guess
one person at a time.
Well, help, Cerrone. Get down there.
Cerrone, still clearing the deck of snakes, acknowledges that the fuel will be enough for about a day, which we'll have to do. As he ascends the stairs toward the wheelhouse, Terry stands distraught. But once again, the ship is spied through the fog in POV, and we see Cerrone manning the controls in the wheelhouse. We're then taken to the cabin, where Terry checks on Cale, holding his hand as he rests in bed, his neck bandaged with a small stain of blood imbruing it from his wound. But Danny joins the pair, learning from Terry that Cale is breathing normally now, and Danny offers his reassurances that they'll get him home. But Terry sits puzzled. She asks, Cerrone is supposed to get them to a hospital, and he acts like he owns this river, and yet they ran into a barrier full of snakes? As Danny exhales sharply, Terry wonders where Cerrone could be taking them. But we soon find the vessel floating through the Amazon, the camera climbing clumsily in a wide shot that I'm surprised made it into the film because it's very shaky. But as the ship ventures on, Cerrone, who has since ceded control of the ship back to Mateo off screen, I guess, peers over the starboard side of the deck, discovering the wreckage of another ship hidden behind a twisted mess of mangled branches. He calls out for Mateo to stop the boat, and the camera dips down from the other side to reveal within the wreckage rests a discarded revolver, as well as scattered cages and the errant feathers of birds fluttering in the breeze. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cerrone readies a rifle as the crew gathers around him, with Terry confused as to why they need to stop the boat now. Cerrone gestures to the boat across the water, noting that there could be fuel there for them to scavenge. Terry asks if he knows this boat, and Cerrone just responds that there are a lot of boats like that.
That does not answer my question.
No.
And what would prompt Terry to even ask that, though?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
But Terry calls out to anyone who might be aboard the other ship, and when she gets no response, Cerrone fires a shot from his rifle into the air. Westridge, though, sits idly by, a wet towel covering his head as he fans himself with his hat. His injured finger properly bandaged, he snidely remarks that he gets the distinct impression that there's nobody home. But with strings in the score rising suspensefully, Cerrone suggests that Mateo come with him to investigate, and Danny rushes for his camera to get it all on film. With his camera on his shoulder, Danny follows Mateo and Cerrone through waist-high water and tangled trees until the trio reaches the wreckage of the ship. Danny lines up the shot from the water as Mateo and Cerrone ascend the deck. With his rifle in hand, Cerrone orders Mateo to go aft, but the camera swoops in from behind Danny and the water ripples as he rushes to look over his shoulder, but when he discovers nothing amiss, he just readjusts his equipment and continues filming. But in the cabin of the wrecked ship, we rediscover a very familiar newspaper clipping. Only this time, we press in on the photograph of the three men holding the large snake, close enough to finally recognize them.
Why are two of them smiling and he's just making that same face?
Well,
He's stuck.
Yeah, I don't understand.
well, we don't know who they are yet.
It's just very funny.
We were still anonymous.
Hey, I didn't say who it is.
Like one of them
Yeah,
is
one of them.
clearly evil.
Villainous.
Yes,
Yeah.
quite villainous. But the poacher stands at the center, clutching the body of the large reptile. But raising up the tail of the captured creature is none other than Mateo. And seizing the animal by the neck to hold up its head, we see the sneering face of Cerrone. So what the fuck?
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yes,
Fuck
yeah.
off.
That's this reveal.
Yeah.
So stupid.
So this is why Mateo has been looking at him suspiciously.
Yeah, but why? To me,
'Cause
when he
that
got
did
on the
not-
no,
No,
when he got on the
no.
boat,
Yeah.
like just like you said, he was looking at him suspiciously.
Yes.
Mhm.
You guys are in cahoots, and those were your poker faces
Yeah.
staring at each other from across the fucking boat.
Mhm.
Take a lap.
Take a lap.
Terrible.
That my note is turn it off.
Yeah.
Like even for me, that reveal. I know we've seen the
Even
piece,
for
yeah,
me.
Yeah.
I know we've seen the piece of paper earlier or whatever, but we get this, and it makes it weird because. I jumped ahead for a second, but
That's fine.
The two of them were smiling, and he's doing the weird face.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, I don't ever feel like him and Mateo knew each other.
No.
I don't ever feel like you're saying the way they looked at each other more was like Mateo ocular pat down. He's like, no, you look sketchy because I'm sketchy.
Yes.
So I know. But,
sketch, recognize sketch.
Yeah,
Yes.
but then we see this, and then like you're saying, it is that weird. So you guys work together, or
Because it honestly feels like the way I'm reading it is Mateo's a good guy who's looking out for the rest of the crew,
Yeah.
sees something suspicious in Cerrone that they don't see yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
It does not seem like, oh, there's my partner.
Yeah. We staged this.
Yeah. But the music tensely arpeggiating, Cerrone tears the clipping free from the wall just before he's joined in the cabin by Danny, who has now climbed aboard the ship. Surveying the area, Danny assesses the place as spooky, and Cerrone simply asks, "You think so?" before quickly exiting the room. Danny, however, to his confusion, discovers the remains of a rifle, its barrel twisted and its body splintered. But below deck, sunlight pouring in through the wooden slats, Cerrone locates a locked chest, breaking it open with the help of a crowbar. He seems very pleased by what he finds inside, but he quickly closes it again when Danny descends to meet him there. In the very tight quarters, Danny carefully maneuvers his camera around a corner, only to come face to face with Cerrone in a slight jump scare. Cerrone seeks Danny's help in carrying the chest back to their ship, but when he asks what's inside, Cerrone responds with a smile. Treasures. But Mateo, all alone, has found his way through the entrance of the cabin that the poacher escaped from, discovering the large hole that was bashed through the floor from below. As he peers into its darkness, we return to Cerrone and Danny, who are lowering the treasure chest from the poacher's boat to carry it upon the surface of the water.
I know that they're bad, right? But like, isn't it kind of cute that the poacher had that picture of them up on the wall?
Like, I'm proud of us, man.
That's cute.
That was a big ass snake we caught.
It was?
Yeah.
It's just kind of cute to me.
But again, too, if we're old buddies or whatever, you're still not acting like Mateo, even
No.
if you're
No.
out here. It's just, hey, we're leaving.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I gotta be honest, man, what even is the point of hijacking their boat for your purposes? You already have a boat.
Yeah.
You could just do it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand why Cerrone even needs them.
Yeah.
That is such a good question. I don't understand that at all. Because I'm like, maybe if they know where to go and Cerrone doesn't.
Yes.
But he's like, no, we're going to
Yeah,
go. That makes that I did not even think about that. That
No.
literally makes no sense.
But Danny warns Cerrone to be careful, as his camera is also inside of the chest now. And Cerrone heeds this warning, but he calls out to Mateo, alerting him that it's time to head back to the ship. Mateo answers in a shout that he's coming, but in his attempt to climb off of the boat, he loses his footing and crash lands into the murky water. Danny and Cerrone continue toward the ship, none the wiser, as Mateo rises from the shallows, flinging the putrid water off of him as he curses. But before he can do much else, and once again missing a connecting shot, and I think violating that 180-degree rule that we learned about last week, Mateo suddenly stands facing the opposite direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Frozen in terror as a massive anaconda rests coiled on a log across from him. The large head of the snake snaps toward Mateo, seizing his shoulder in its jaws as it thrashes him in the water, whipping around him and pinning him to the log. The snake squeezes the air from Mateo's lungs, leaving him whimpering and unable to scream to his crewmates for help. The anaconda turns to face Mateo, its tongue flickering as its strength snaps through the log, and it once again seizes Mateo in its giant jaw, but this time by the head, snapping his neck.
You hate to see it.
I love that they introduce very quietly Mateo as like a co-villain.
Yeah.
And then they're like, it's fine, he's dead.
Don't worry, guys.
Just so we don't feel so bad about this. Danny and Cerrone, however, return to the Micaela 1, lifting their treasure onto the deck and explaining to the disappointment of the crew that there was no fuel to gather from the other ship. Terry asks where Mateo is, and Danny answers that he doesn't know, sure that he was just right behind them. But we return to Mateo, who rests lifeless in the clutches of the anaconda, his head slumping forward with the broken bones of his neck unable to stay upright. The anaconda unhinges its jaw, hissing as its opened mouth inches closer to Mateo's scalp. But back at the boat, Danny, still standing in the water, overhears a distant splash and tells the group that he's going to go back to find Mateo.
That confused me too, because we hear that splash.
Uh-huh.
But I'm like, nobody heard all that screaming and hissing and yelping and growling, and nobody heard any of that. But the splash is like, all right, let me go find. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell?
Wait, but was that the splash of him falling in there, or the anaconda taking him down in the water? I don't
know either, because that already happened.
No, I know. That's why I'm confused now. That it made me question.
I don't know.
I think some scenes got switched. Because it makes sense if, like, whenever it tackled him first.
Right.
That's when he hears the splash.
Okay.
But he's already tackled him. He's eating him right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's curtains for Mateo.
Yeah.
And it's just now that it's like, was that water? Was that a water sound? Let me go investigate.
And so weird to hear a water sound in the Amazon River. Terry urges Cerrone, who is already back on the deck, to go with Danny to search for Mateo. But Cerrone just shrugs, offering maybe some other time.
What?
Yeah. See here, okay, we beat him severely, tie him up.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's okay.
Severely.
He's earned it.
Yes.
Terry curses Cerrone as an asshole, but just watches from the deck as Danny ventures back alone. It's obviously not that important if you don't go with him.
True. Yeah.
That's kind of fucked
Holy
up.
God, Cerrone, you fucking suck, dude.
I'll be here. But Denise stands with Westridge, watching as Danny wades through the water, with Westridge recounting that not only are they stuck in the middle of nowhere, but now they've lost their driver. Danny beams his flashlight through the mist as he reaches the poacher's boat in search of Mateo, calling out to him and growing frustrated when he doesn't respond. He stumbles over to the opposite side of the boat, perplexed when he discovers something resting in a small plant poking out of the water. It's Mateo's flashlight. Terry calls out to Danny from the safety of the boat, and it's only when she repeats this that Danny finally returns her call, alerting her and the crew that he didn't find anything there. Westridge pours himself a glass of wine, sarcastically stating that that's very reassuring. But Terry and Denise help Danny back onto the boat. He shows them the flashlight that he found, and Terry is dismayed to learn that this is all he recovered. But the crew is interrupted by Cerrone, who tosses one of the treasures from the chest at them. Something long, white, and coiled. It unrolls like a carpet across the deck floor until it reaches the feet of Danny, Terry, and Denise. Cerrone reveals that it's Anaconda skin. And Danny, overwhelmed with shock, can't believe that there are snakes out there of this size. But Cerrone, absolutely standing in front of a green screen.
Thank you. I was trying to be patient, but my God.
The sun setting behind him, shares that this skin is 2 or 3 years old, and whatever shed it has grown even more since then. And he claims that something like this has made a meal of their dear captain. Terry doesn't believe him, however, certain that snakes don't eat people. But Cerrone, dragging his finger across a scar on his face, begs to differ.
It didn't eat you.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He tried.
It maimed you. It didn't eat you.
He calls anacondas the perfect killing machine, noting their heat sensors, and suggesting that a warm body like Mateo's in the water wouldn't be so hard to find. In a half Marlon Brando impression, half-assed Paraguayan accent, Cerrone says that they strike, wrap around you, hold you tighter than your true love, and you get the privilege of hearing your bones break before the power of their embrace causes your veins to explode. Denise looks around uneasily, insisting that Mateo is probably just lost, but Westridge has heard enough, urging Denise to wake up. Gesturing to the snakeskin, Cerrone asks the crew to imagine something this big captured alive, And for some reason, he singles out Gary, telling him that it would be worth a lot of money. Terry can't believe what she's hearing, but Cerrone, lit in a way that doesn't at all match the shot when we last saw him, pleads with the crew to not make him out to be a monster. He didn't eat the Captain Mateo, and he then sucks his teeth.
Yeah.
Listen, I've had a lot to say about this film and about this character in particular, but I didn't eat the Captain Mateo as a top notch.
It's like, don't look at me.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. It was very good.
But disregarding everything Cerrone just said, Terry attempts to rally her troops, telling them that they can't be certain that Mateo is even dead, and she suggests that they just wait here until the morning.
I thought we were in a mad dash to get Kel to the hospital.
Yeah.
That I also thought the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Westridge explodes. What are you, insane? And he demands to know where she thinks Mateo went. On a walk in the woods? Terry commands Westridge to get a grip, adding that if it was him out there, he'd want for them to wait until morning too. But Westridge corrects her. If it was him out there, he'd be dead. He pleads, don't you see?
I understand what Westridge is saying. I think what I'm having right now, the problem with is that Anaconda, he's an animal.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? It's out there doing whatever it's doing. But it's not, like we said, I feel like it'd be different if this Anaconda was like, I'm just going to fuck people up to fuck people up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or you guys come in the Amazon, I'm going to eat you, period. Y'all went looking for this thing, and I guess, on your trail, it's like, oh shit, people are here, I'm going to bother you. But, I mean, so if Cerrone wasn't with us and we were just going, would we even encounter this Anaconda?
Well, we wouldn't even be over here. So no.
Well, I mean, even before when we seen it where we wherever we were at.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think one thing we're really relying on this Anaconda like a slasher villain.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
You're right, because it's not as if he's gonna pick us off one by one.
No.
He's got a life to live.
Yeah.
He's eating panthers and shit.
No,
Yes.
yeah.
Like-
He's not stopping or waiting at the next intersection for us to get there to try to pick somebody off.
You're right.
We're staying stationary, and then he's like, oh, look, food.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very weird to talk about the snake that way when this isn't what that is.
That is fair.
I did hear, though, that anacondas don't want none unless you got buns, hon.
Oh,
So most of the people on that boat are probably going to be fine. J-Lo?
I was kidding. Hold on.
That's
J-Lo's in trouble.
But standing face to face now, Terry simply asks Westridge to head inside the cabin and to lock the door behind him. Westridge accepts this, albeit adding facetiously, like a bad boy. The jungle's making everyone horny.
Yeah, that was weird.
I was like, what?
He's like, so what are we doing later?
It's like, well, Kale's dead, so.
Say, Gary, what are you doing?
Yeah. But Westridge collects his shoes and heads toward the cabin as Terry addresses the rest of her crew. She suggests that they aim lights at the adjacent boat, and Cerrone smiles that that's a good idea. Lights are a good idea.
So turn the lights off.
Yeah.
Even that, I'm
Why?
sorry, dude. Why are we still allowing him to talk?
Yeah.
That's a great question. But thunder crackles as the sun sets over the Amazon, a harsh rain finding the region in the night, the exterior lights of the Micaela 1 beaming through the storm coming down in sheets. On the deck of the ship, Cerrone sits clumsily in a hammock, tossing food into his mouth, while Denise approaches Gary, out of earshot of Cerrone, to remark that she's not so sure that Cerrone didn't eat Mateo. She adds that Cerrone sure looks satiated, before asking Gary if he thinks Mateo could still be alive.
No, he does look pleased.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I'm like, is this some like, we have a connection, me and the snake? Like, it's weird the way that it is kind of portrayed like he's behind everything.
Yeah.
You mean like almost like a Captain Ahab connection?
Right.
That's fair.
It's like what story are we telling?
Mm-hmm.
But Gary just shakes his head solemnly as he peers over the port side of the ship and suggests that they should get to bed. But as he puts his arm around Denise and they begin to walk away, Cerrone suddenly shouts, "Danger!" And dipping back into that Christopher Walken territory, he adds, "Danger is exciting, huh, Gary?"
I thought he was going to say, "Get on the floor."
Yeah.
Like, you wrote that?
What are we doing?
It's like, we got to get this dude out of here. It's too much. But at this, Gary urges Denise to go onto bed without him, assuring her that he'll be right behind her and that he just wants to talk to Cerrone for a minute. Denise protests this at first, but eventually relents, leaving the two men alone on the deck. Cerrone tosses food into the air and nearly falls out of the hammock to catch it in his mouth as Gary approaches him. Gary wonders, "It's out there, isn't it?" Cerrone smiles that it is and confirms that he knows how to catch them. He passes Gary a bottle of beer, noting that you can't catch an anaconda by yourself, though. You need a partner. And to capture one alive, that might mean $1 million.
Wow.
Gary takes a thoughtful swig of beer before passing it back to Cerrone, and we watch the water ripple around the vessel before suddenly dawn breaks at the horizon, sending a cascade of color to reflect over the surrounding waters. Within Cerrone's treasures, we get a tight shot of a large vial, clearly labeled reptile tranquilizer.
Well, at least we know.
Yes.
It's the responsible thing
Yeah.
to do.
Cerrone, now wearing a black shirt, reaches for the vial, sticking the syringe through the lid and drawing back some of the solution as he looks around shiftily. Through the open door to the cabin, Cerrone spies Terry, who appears to be sleeping in a chair next to Cale's bedside. The strap of her top fallen at her shoulder, Cerrone partakes in what seems to be a cheeky glance before injecting the tranquilizer into a metal dart. But Terry then awakens from her slumber, and Cerrone doesn't break his side-eye stare at her. He notifies Terry that there's still no sign of Mateo, and as he smirks that sly grin of his, Terry just slams the cabin door.
It's like, hey, I'm trying to sleep sexy over here. Slam.
And it's wild. So they did stay the whole night for Mateo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, where could he be?
Yeah.
Like, it's the most ridiculous plan.
Mm-hmm.
Who was it? Westridge that was like, do you think he took a walk in the woods?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I understand wanting to hold on to hope or whatever, but I almost feel like it would be, as shitty as this sounds, it make more sense if it was one of them. Because they don't even know Mateo.
Yeah.
And your boyfriend, ex, I don't know what is going on with her and Cale or what happened or whatever, but he's like, y'all were acting like he was dying if he wasn't going to get to a hospital like right now.
Yeah.
So it was odd that they chose to listen to her, and I mean the whole thing is odd. I don't need to detail it further.
No, we agree.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
It's
that's
weird.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometime later, the ship continues coasting through the Amazon, leaving whatever's left of Mateo behind in their quest for a hospital for Cale. With Westridge at the helm, drinking a glass of wine, the crew exchanges nervous glances with each other on the deck as sounds emanate from the surrounding jungle. Danny sits alone, winding a reel of film, while Gary, who sits next to Denise on the deck, flips through a small sketchbook belonging to Cerrone, which features rough pencil drawings of men wrapped and devoured by massive snakes. What's funny to me is that we see in the corner it says P. Cerrone, but this notebook couldn't have belonged to anyone else. Like, come on.
He likes to label this.
But as Terry tends to Kale in the cabin, wiping his forehead with the cool water of a blue sponge, out on the deck, Cerrone takes notice of small monkeys gathered in the overhanging branches of nearby trees. He calls out for Westridge to steady the ship as he lifts his rifle to aim through its sight. With the small creature in his crosshairs, Cerrone pulls the trigger, the crew startled by the sound, and the animal tumbling lifelessly into the water. Denise and Danny voice their disgust and confusion, but as Cerrone retrieves the small carcass from the water, he explains that you can't catch an anaconda without bait.
We're catching it now?
We never agreed.
Like, no.
Yeah.
You're giving up everything.
Yeah.
That was a private conversation with him and Gary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cerrone orders Westridge to continue onward, but Terry joins the fray, putting a stop to the order. Cerrone counters, however, asking if Terry, in fact, speaks for everybody. And addressing him alone once again, he asks, "Gary, does she speak for everybody?" Gary stays silent for a bit too long, drawing the inquiries of the crew before he can finally muster that the way he sees it, with Kale injured, the movie's off, so why not salvage something? He says they could film Cerrone capturing a big snake. Incensed, Terry asks if Gary has lost his mind, but Gary grows defensive, insisting that he hasn't lost his mind, and he thinks that everyone else needs to open their eyes. Perplexed, Danny demands to know how they went from taking Kale to a hospital to catching a goddamn snake. Gary responds, channeling Axl Rose when he asks, "Do you know where you are? You're in the middle of the jungle, baby."
Yeah, I was like, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
What the hell are we doing?
That might be my Monday song.
Nobody take it.
He accuses the crew of doing nothing but questioning and criticizing, but he reminds them that they don't know shit about the shit they're in out here, and neither does he. But he says that he knows who does, and he points over to Cerrone, very casually calling him by his first name.
Yeah, no, we lost him.
He's gone.
Yeah, throw him over to you.
He says if we help Paul catch this snake, then he'll help us get out of here alive. So it's conditional? When did that happen?
Yeah.
They had this very long bonding session last night that we we weren't privy to the whole thing.
Even that, how mad are you going to be at your friend or your boyfriend?
Extremely.
Or at what the fuck? We came out here together.
Yeah, and you're our crew and have been our crew.
Yeah.
But Gary adds that, amigos, isn't insanity. And in yet another dubbing to avoid an R rating, he concludes that it's common freaking sense. As Cerrone loads his tranquilizer gun, Denise appeals to Gary, telling him that this isn't who he is, and suggests that Cerrone has brainwashed him. But Gary cuts her off, suggesting that she just think for a moment about how much money this could be worth.
How embarrassing to be brainwashed in a conversation.
Yeah.
Like that's really embarrassing.
There wasn't a lot of brain to wash.
No.
He asks them all to imagine capturing something like this on film for the first time ever. He wonders what else they're supposed to do. But Danny has had enough, setting down his reel of film and removing his necklace as he threatens that he knows exactly what he's going to do. He's going to throw both of these sons of bitches into the river himself. But before he can approach the men, Cerrone draws a revolver from its holster, firing a warning shot into Danny's film canister, sending it flying off of the table.
Are you fucking for real, dude?
This is where we're at.
And this is still who you're siding with?
Yeah.
Even worse, Gary, having absolutely switched sides, remarks, "I don't think so."
Gary, shut the fuck up.
I know.
Cerrone insists that he didn't want this to happen, and after eyeing the crew to see if anyone else wants to try to be a hero, he calls out to Westridge on the second level, directing him to push forward. Westridge is like, "You got it, boss," and he returns to the wheelhouse to man the controls.
Thinking about it, if we do get done with this, we're going to beat your ass. Cerrone's going to be gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you can have $1 million. We're going to, I mean.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
And what of your relationship?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
goddamn.
that's
Yeah.
done. Yeah. It just made me laugh at this point because I'm like, Kale is like, what are they doing out there? I still have a hole in my throat. Did we spend the night? The boat isn't even moving.
But Cerrone then hands off the tranquilizer gun to Gary as he suggests that the rest of the crew occupy themselves, maybe play a game of cards. We get tense shots of the concerned crew members before the camera once again glides over the river as the sun sets at the horizon. We return to the wheelhouse, where the green glow of the gauges cast their light through the darkness and across Westridge's face. But out on the deck, Gary seemingly acts as a sentry, stalking across the boards with a rifle, eyeing the seated members of the crew, unable to meet Denise's eyes when she looks up at him tearfully from her seat. Danny sits disgruntled in the low light of a lantern, and he glances up at Terry, who rests against one of the beams. The two lock eyes with each other as Danny conceals a pocket knife, clicking it open loudly for her to see in his grasp.
Yeah, you didn't need to do that.
No.
No.
It's like, we know what a knife is. But she feverishly shakes her head no at whatever he's planning to do. Cerrone stands at the edge of the stern, winding a winch until its line suddenly snaps taut in the water with a jolt, something potentially having seized the bait. The entire crew grows attentive as Cerrone warns for nobody to move. He peers out into the water, trying his best to wrench the winch as the line starts to pull aggressively to the left and aggressively to the right. The line rises from the water, and attached to its hook wriggles the massive Anaconda, screeching and splashing across the river. I'm sorry, but this snake screams a lot, dude.
So much.
I don't know a lot about snakes, but I don't think they do that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's like shrieking like a human.
Yeah. I will say the Anaconda is credited to Frank Welker
Of course.
voicing, and we have talked about Frank Welker so many goddamn times on this show.
Yeah.
He was Fred in the original Scooby-Doo,
Yeah.
and I think he went on to play Scooby-Doo in the later Scooby-Doo.
Moving on up.
Yeah. But he's been in like hundreds of things, and he also played the Anaconda.
He was
Okay.
Nibbler too.
He was Nibbler.
There was a lot of stuff on Futurama.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I was wondering, do y'all think that this would be more effective if this was the first time we're seeing the whole Anaconda? Because I'm like, then how would Mateo's death have worked? Maybe he's just pulled under, or like we see him wrapped up. But this shot right here, I'm like, this would have been cool, like a cool unveiling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's dragged down from underneath the water, like the first kill in Jaws.
Okay.
Yeah. They're like, no, Jaws is fucking old. And they don't. It's like, no, I think they nailed it, kind of.
Which one are people still talking about favorably? But fear rests in the face of every member of the crew, and we get a sweet dolly zoom on Terry as she looks on in disbelief at the sight before her. But Cerrone calls out to Gary, ordering him up to the second level to shine the lights and directing Westridge to stop the boat. The music grows frenzied as Westridge does as told, spying the slithering snake through the window of the wheelhouse and gasping at the gargantuan creature. Gary blasts a beam of bright light into the water, illuminating the region just beyond the stern of the ship, and Cerrone offers in wonder and amazement, "Buenas noches, beautiful."
I don't know.
Yeah. As the Anaconda whips around in the water, still attached to the hook, Cerrone orders Westridge to join them on the deck. Terry cries that Cerrone is going to get them all killed, but Cerrone just focuses his attention on the snake, commanding Gary to aim for its eyes with the lights to blind it. Westridge joins Gary outside of the wheelhouse, with Cerrone once again ordering him onto the deck. Danny remarks in disbelief that Cerrone is fishing for a snake, adding, "That man's gotta be crazy." His mouth absolutely said, "That man's fucking crazy." I don't know why we're doing this.
This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps.
Yeah.
Denise pleads with Cerrone to just let the snake go, but he just continues calling out for Westridge to join him at the winch. The anaconda snarls in the water, thrashing violently as Westridge creeps cautiously down the stairs in a daze. But seeing this as his only opportunity, Danny whips his pocket knife open and stalks towards Cerrone, who stands preoccupied with the anaconda in the river. But the tail of the snake sweeps onto the deck of the ship, somehow tripping Danny and sending him tumbling over the table and onto the deck floor, his knife sliding off of the edge of the ship and into the river.
Are we serious? This is why I'm like, are we like, is this a symbiotic relationship with Cerrone and the snake?
Yeah.
He's like, "I got you.
Yeah. It's like, no, this is between me and him.
Don't get involved."
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. It is that. You took way too long to try to attack this dude.
Yes.
Y'all watched him. I understand that snake's pretty big. He's distracted.
Very.
Yeah.
Gary's somewhere else. Go and, like, come on, man. Hit this man with something.
Go
Yeah.
Como.
The snake, still whipping wildly in the water, catches Cerrone's legs in its grasp, tripping him with its tail as its mouth breaks free from the hook, snapping it off and sending it flying toward Westridge, who drops to the floor defensively, narrowly avoiding its barbs. All grows deathly silent as the snake disappears back into the water, with Westridge crying out, wondering where it's gone. But out of nowhere, the anaconda lurches up once again, snarling at Westridge, who cowers fearfully at the edge of the stern, trembling as the snake forcefully regurgitates the bait from the hook, projectile vomiting the corpse of the small monkey directly at him.
Wow.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, fuck you in particular?
I guess it's weapon or something. I don't know
Yes.
why it's.
It's just gross.
Yeah.
It has nothing. It doesn't mean anything. Shivering, Westridge crawls away as Cerrone dives for the tranquilizer darts, and ordering everyone not to move, he stands to aim properly at the anaconda. But Terry takes off running for the cabin, only to be pursued by the anaconda, who smashes his head through the cabin window, its tongue flickering as it snarls and hisses at her.
It made me laugh because she starts toward the cabin, and then when we look back, she's fully in there and looking out the window.
She teleported.
I was like, damn.
Well, the editing of this film is
It's weird.
yeah. But suddenly at her side and aiming down sights with a sneer is Cerrone, who without a moment of hesitation fires the tranquilizer dart right into the opened mouth of the anaconda. The snake shrieks in pain.
It was it.
It was twisting torturously until it's able to spit out the tranquilizer. But outside on the deck, Gary cries out for Denise, who stands frozen in fear, asking her to join him on the second level and holding out his hand for her to grab it. She finally reaches for him, but in the anaconda's frantic movements, its tail scatters the table and chairs on the deck, the debris of which tumble from port to starboard, connecting with Denise and sending her crashing into the river.
That looked hilarious.
Yeah.
But I'm like, she was fine.
Yeah.
Her going to you is what fucking knocked her off.
The anaconda takes immediate note of this and dives into the water portside as Gary dives in to rescue Denise.
At least he went in after her because I kind of wasn't expecting him to.
True.
Yeah.
Danny stands at the edge of the deck, reaching his hand out for Denise when Gary is able to guide her back to the boat. He lifts her back onto the deck, but just as Gary climbs aboard, the anaconda, which is absolutely on set and not added in post on top of everything, unhinges its jaw to seize Gary's face in a venomous kiss.
I just put, oh dear. Like, it looks bad.
It's like pasted.
Yeah.
And it sucks because the puppet is so good.
Yeah.
Like it is genuinely really good.
Mm-hmm.
But it wraps tightly around his torso, securing him to one of the poles on the deck, freeing its fangs to whip its head around threateningly at the members of the crew who get too close. In the frenzy, Terry finds Cerrone's rifle on the deck floor and reaches for it. But before she can aim it at the Anaconda, Cerrone grabs for the barrel in Terry's grasp, shouting that the Anaconda is no good to him dead. Denise screams incessantly as the snake snaps through the pole with the strength of its squeeze, sending itself and Gary falling into the water. They sink into the depths of the river as Denise cries out for her lost lover, Terry holding her as she sinks to the ground sobbing, and the Anaconda twists Gary upward to float once more upon the surface before dragging him to his death below.
Kale's like, hello?
My throat hurts.
He's got a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mrs. Pommelhorse. Terry comforts an inconsolable Denise at the edge of the ship, which is right where the snake could reach up and grab any one of them. But it's quiet now, and only the songs of birds echo over the trees. Danny sits distraught on the steps leading up to the wheelhouse, and Cerrone kneels at the side of Denise, offering a prayer over the water as he tears the petal of a small pink flower from a plant and tosses them into the river. May the souls of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. He then tosses the whole plant into the water, cavalierly muttering a prayer in Latin as he rises to his feet. This was so fucked up because that was your dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, he meant nothing to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was more your friend now than ours.
Yeah.
And
No, he didn't give a fuck about Gary. Gary was just a pawn.
No, but again, I know this is very sad, but Gary did hold us hostage at gunpoint.
He did.
He did some hours ago.
dude, he was like patrolling the deck. People forget about that.
Everybody only remembers the good.
Cerrone then calls out to Westridge, but Denise has had enough. She rises to her feet and points an accusing finger into Cerrone's face, blaming him for bringing this snake onto them, crying that he brought the devil. Cerrone merely sneers that there's a devil inside of everyone.
What?
But then he widens his eyes like, think about that shit.
I feel like that didn't apply here.
No. Terry pulls Denise away from Cerrone, ordering him to get his hands off of her, despite the fact that he wasn't touching her at all. But Cerrone just sums up the whole situation with one word: horrible. This is the heavy-handed thing I was talking about as far as the producers being like, and religion.
Right.
The snake is the devil.
Yeah.
And then we don't talk about it again.
Right. No, this is it.
That's all. But Cerrone leaves the women alone and calls out to Westridge to take his gear up to the wheelhouse. Despite the fact that Cerrone is now brandishing his revolver, Westridge stands up for himself, insisting that he's not Cerrone's bloody poodle, and seething, "How dare you presume to order me about?" Cerrone seizes on this word, presume, before promptly slapping Westridge across the face, backhanding him, and then slapping him again as he asks, "How do you like I presume to throw you into the river? You like that presume, huh?"
So we're killing him in his sleep, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got to sleep.
Yeah. And there's a lot more of us than him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But he pulls the hammer back on the revolver, holding it to Westridge's throat as he clutches him by the hair. Cerrone orders him once again to take his things upstairs, and Westridge trembles a thank you before Cerrone shoves him over toward his bags. Terry, still holding Denise in her arms, stares daggers through Cerrone as he warns for everyone else not to move. He approaches the stairs to the wheelhouse where Danny is still parked, and he orders him to move them. He's like, you can move.
Except for you.
But Danny finally does so hesitantly as Cerrone ascends the staircase. As soon as he disappears, Danny whispers to Terry, suggesting that they talk. But the camera descends beneath the surface of the water, and the lights cast from the boat carve through the darkness of the river, where we see the anaconda swimming by, its stomach swollen large in the shape of Gary, his frightened face visible through the snake's shimmering scales.
Super cool in theory,
Mm-hmm.
but this execution was not it.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you could cast Owen Wilson's face
Mm-hmm.
and just pull something to, you know what I mean? Like there were a lot of things that could have been done, but this was a little disappointing because the idea is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It is, but I mean, it's again, I know it's CGI, but it's very clearly CGI.
Yeah, it's that. And y'all have that puppet. So
Yeah.
I'm like, why? It is really fucking cool. I feel like that would be, you really could have leaned on that.
Yeah, and if that's the case, like you were saying, stretching something over Owen Wilson's face and having it there,
Yeah.
why don't you just have that piece of the anaconda on a branch or something? We see it swollen, we see his face, and then it dips that part into the water.
Yeah.
We know that he's eaten. It
Yeah.
looks better.
I did want to say something very cool, just a matter of wordplay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to mention it earlier, but Bill Butler, the cinematographer, he talked about this two-man skiff that they rowed in order to create the illusion of being the POV of the snake. And he talked about just, putting the camera in a water box, having it floating halfway in, halfway out of the water, and all this stuff. But the coolest thing in the world is that they called this camera system the Panaconda.
That is 10 out of 10.
That's funny.
But we pan across the empty deck of the Michaela 1, and as Cerrone charts a path forward in the wheelhouse, Terry has decided to reapply her lipstick in the cabin, and she steels herself for a moment before she ascends the staircase to the helm. The strings in the score pulse pensively as mist surrounds the ship, and Terry taps on the window to the wheelhouse. Cerrone spies her through the glass, mulling it over for a moment before unlocking the door and pulling it open. He asks if she wants something, and Terry steps inside, offering in a sultry voice that she just wanted to talk to him. He eyes her suspiciously as she peers out of the window before she turns to face him, revealing that she's been thinking about the myth, and she tells Cerrone that she doesn't know if he's aware, but this film was supposed to be her big break, but it's only turned out into a big disaster. But making her way around the wheelhouse, Terry finally reaches the wheel, rolling it ever so slightly to the left as she proposes that maybe she could film Cerrone capturing the snake. She reaches for his hand, slithering her arm up his shoulder, adding that then it wouldn't have all been for nothing. Cerrone laments that it could be dangerous, and Terry understands. Gazing up into his eyes as her hand reaches his chest, she tells him in relief that at least he would be there to protect them. Cerrone asks sincerely if she needs protection, and Terry nervously nods that she does, pressing her forehead to his chest. Cerrone admits that it's been a long time since he's had a woman.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you were just, everybody hated him downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is too much too quick.
Yeah.
It's a terrible plan.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
But Cerrone seizes her by the ponytail and pulls her in for a passionate kiss. Terry pulls him closer to the console, and with his back turned to the door, Danny ascends the staircase in the dark, approaching the door and creaking it open. But Cerrone spies him through an overhead mirror that I didn't know was there,
No.
pulling himself away from Terry to point his revolver at Danny, who holds his hand and his weapon up before he had the opportunity to take a swing. His weapon, by the way, looks like a baseball bat with a hook taped to it.
Yes, it did.
Just fucking wild.
Gotta use something, I guess.
Cerrone cries out, "You think I'm stupid?" He then steals another kiss from Terry before pushing her away, insisting that he isn't stupid. But what Cerrone hadn't counted on is Westridge, who sinks his putter through the window just behind him and smashes him in the back of the head, and he does so once again for good measure. Cerrone clatters to the ground with a wound at the back of his skull, Danny rejoicing that their plan worked, and Westridge snarking, asshole in one. Pretty good.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. I was laughing out loud at how bad this plan was when Danny came in. I really wasn't expecting the assist from Westridge.
Yeah.
Like, what is this, a baby face?
Very good.
Thank you very much. He started out such an asshole.
Yeah. Now they're a team.
Yeah.
But Westridge asks Terry if he should hit Cerrone again to make sure. But Danny insists that they just throw him in the river. Terry pleads with the men, asking, haven't we had enough of that?
No.
Yeah, what?
I don't know.
No more half measures, Walter.
Yeah.
Take his gun and throw him the fuck over.
Yeah. What else could we need him for?
What are we doing here?
Except to kill us later. Like, come on. But Terry suggests that they just tie him up instead. Westridge, however, is still very much in his own world, and he mutters, I'm ashamed to admit that I rather enjoyed it. It's like, let's tie him up too.
Yeah.
That's frightful.
For good measure.
But Terry catches her breath as she leans against the wheelhouse door, and Danny snaps into action, seizing Cerrone's arm behind his back to do as he was directed. But we return to the depths of the river, slithering through plants in a POV shot, before abruptly cutting away to the dawn of a new day, the golden lights at the edges of the ship echoing the morning sun pouring through the clouds. But Cerrone awakens, sitting on the deck, his wrists tied, and a length of rope securing him to a pole. He smirks, watching the trees pass him by, until Terry approaches him with the newspaper article that he stole from the poacher's wrecked boat. He kept it on him?
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
Terry understands now. This was all one big setup. Mateo, Cerrone stranded, the shipwrecked boat, his route to the hospital. Cerrone grins. How could you forget about the wasp?
Now you listen here.
Yeah.
That's some fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
There was not at all
No.
any point, unless the propeller blade was also in cahoots with them and it slipped it into dude's mouth underwater,
Yeah.
because he was already grabbing his throat.
Yes,
Right.
he was.
He was.
But enraged, Terry rears back, punching Cerrone in the face. I will say that she misses entirely. It was very poorly executed. But Cerrone sighs, wheezing a laugh as Terry crouches next to him, commenting that what Cerrone does isn't so hard. She boasts, I can trap a snake, too.
She should have kicked him in the dick when she said
Yeah.
Why?
Why
for
not?
trapping the snake.
Yeah, but all right. So much for metaphors and whatnot.
No. Insult, injury. Enjoy.
Once again doing his best Brando for reasons undetermined, Cerrone snarks that as smart as Terry is, she can't survive without him. This seems to register with Terry, but she offers no response as she rises to her feet and checks in on Denise, who still sits rocking despondently in one of the chairs on the deck. Terry reaches a soothing hand behind Denise's neck, assuring her that they're going to be home soon, but Denise doesn't even acknowledge her, the camera pressing in on her as she slowly sets her eyes on Cerrone, who, of course, sneers. But inside the cabin, Terry leans in through the mosquito net surrounding Cole's bed to whisper into his ear, I can't believe how good you're doing, and she encourages him to hang in there. Cale smiles weakly at this, turning his head slightly in Terry's direction as he breathes a shallow breath. But up in the wheelhouse, Westridge smokes a cigarette as he mans the controls, and Danny, who has seemingly been promoted to navigator, asks his colleague if the ship is difficult to drive. Westridge just offers that it's a dawdle, like driving a Cadillac Fleetwood. Removing the smoke from his lips, he suggests that he could give Danny a driving lesson. I already know this is not going to go well. Like, come on. Westridge instructs him on the use of the knobs. The black knob is up to go forward, down to go back, and the red knob is up to go fast and down to go slow. Terry joins them in as Westridge adds that for the wheel, it's 4 turns hard over, left, and right, and if Danny gets into trouble, just turn off the ignition. Danny asks if that's it, and Westridge steps back from the controls, allowing for Danny to take them back to civilization. Danny mans the controls excitedly as Westridge wistfully whispers, "Take us back to crisp sheets and hot showers." Danny smiles, the playoffs and a 6-pack. Westridge, who already had a turn.
He wasn't done.
He wasn't.
No.
He adds 18 holes of golf and a quadruple gin and tonic. Terry, who doesn't get a turn, just smiles as Danny once again chimes in. LA traffic and my cellular phone.
Not cellular phone.
Yeah.
This was cute.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
The group shares a laugh as Danny navigates the vessel around a tree that bears yet another cleanly carved snake totem. Cerrone seems to take note of this from the deck, but even more, he's taken with the cascading waves of a waterfall just up ahead, commenting, "Waterfall."
Very good.
He addresses Denise, telling her, "It's a beautiful sight, baby bird." He claims that the legend was right. On the second level, Terry and Westridge exit the wheelhouse, amazed at the sight before them, Terry asking Westridge with wonder in her voice, "What is this place?" Westridge can only remark on its beauty, but suddenly, the ship steers right into a series of low-lying rocks, grinding to a jarring halt. Westridge loses his footing, and Terry holds onto the railing as the boat rocks wearily, and Danny calls out that he thinks that they hit the bottom. Westridge confirms this, but directs Danny to turn the wheel to the left, then to the right, then to attempt to reverse, and when none of these actions free the boat, Westridge just tells him to shut off the ignition. Stepping out of the wheelhouse and assessing the situation, Danny peers over the railing, directing their attention to a couple of nearby trees on either side, suggesting that if they wrap rope around both of them and pull it tight, they can use the winch to pull themselves loose. But this means that they'll have to go back into the water. But he says otherwise, they'll be stuck forever. He acknowledges that they need to make it quick, in and out. And Westridge ties a bandana around his forehead, lamenting that he thought he had already done his bit. You didn't do anything.
He taught him how to drive it and then promptly drive them into some rocks.
Yes.
And he did knock out Cerrone.
Okay.
Yeah, he did.
Then he got a taste for blood, though.
Then he promptly lost his mind.
But the trio descends the staircase, and Danny directs traffic, assembling and readying the necessary materials as Cerrone watches silently. As Westridge climbs into the water, he remembers that the last time he was in water like this, he was up all night picking leeches off of his scrotum. I was like, all right, man, come on.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Does this stand by me?
He's like, it was unrelated to the dip in the water.
That was something else.
But Denise watches from the broken cabin window as Terry, Danny, and Westridge wade through chest-deep water with a length of rope toward the selected trees, the winch pulling taut, and as soon as they're out of sight, she crosses the deck directly for Cerrone, a filthy knife clenched in her fist. She reveals it to him, asking, "Aren't you gonna pray?" But locking eyes with her and doing a half Stephen King impression, half-assed Paraguayan accent, Cerrone warns for Denise to never look into the eyes of those you kill. He claims that they'll haunt you forever. He knows. The knife trembling in her grasp, Denise crumbles, looking away from Cerrone. And this is when Cerrone seizes the opening, pulling himself upward in an impossible leap to wrap his legs around Denise's neck.
Fuck off.
I
Yeah.
know.
When he leapt up.
Come on.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I think what Terry should have stayed.
So, yeah.
You didn't need to go two of y'all and then one.
Not at all. Yeah.
Dragging her to the ground and squeezing the life out of her, Cerrone recites, I firmly resolve with the help of your grace to confess my sins, to do penance and to amend my life. Amen. He releases Denise from his grasp, having fucking killed her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Again, first of all, no one hears this.
No.
They're not that far away. Secondly, like you said, I'm the most traumatized person here.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to leave me alone with this. And y'all were already giggling and laughing up in the fucking wheelhouse or whatever. Now, I'm alone down here. I
Yeah.
gotta be alone with this dude. And now I gotta die fucking smushed against his musty ass thighs.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is so
God.
unfair. And my boyfriend turned on us and is dead too?
Yeah.
This is really fucking unfair.
If we have one character who definitely should have survived,
Yeah, she's been through enough.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
I will say that after catching his breath and saying another prayer in Latin, he ends it with baby bird.
Yeah, of course he
Yeah.
does. Yes.
But he looks both ways, watching as Terry, Danny, and Westridge continue their work, cinching the rope around the sturdy trees in the river, and he picks his spot carefully as he kicks Denise's corpse into the river. The three crew members turn to face the boat when they hear the splash of her body hitting the water, but then they just return to their work as if it never happened.
Yeah.
I was like, that's I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cerrone, meanwhile, in full view of everyone if they were to just turn around, seizes Denise's discarded knife, sliding it to his tied hands so he can make short work of his bindings. But out on the water, Danny stands still for a moment when he senses something, and out of the corner of his eye, vegetation ripples around them from swift movement beneath the surface of the river, and thinking fast, Danny orders everyone back onto the boat. Just as they begin to swim for safety, the Anaconda once again makes its presence known, poking its head out of the water and swimming right for them. As Danny helps Terry back onto the boat, Westridge stays behind, splashing the water as a distraction, antagonizing the snake and screaming, "Over here, you fat-ass bastard!" It's wild stuff.
Yeah.
It is, and again, really, really surprised by his behavior.
Mhm.
This is heroic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got the action hero bandana now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they did make nice when
They
they were
did.
driving.
They did.
But with the Anaconda in pursuit of him, Westridge is left with no option but to swim for the waterfall, climbing the slippery rocks at its base to higher ground as the snake slithers close behind. Terry and Danny watch from the boat as Westridge loses his footing beneath the rushing waves of the waterfall, clutching a vine and hanging precariously above the river. Danny urgently calls for Terry to find the gun inside of the cabin, but with their backs turned, Cerrone is finally able to slice through the rope securing him to the pole. He rises to his feet, launching for Danny with his blade, but Danny is able to use a hanging sail to parry the attack. Unfortunately, with a cartoon-sounding punch, Cerrone socks Danny, clattering him to the deck floor.
I literally have the off-screen punch sound. I can't.
Yeah.
I was laughing out loud.
It's pretty funny.
As Westridge regains his footing and climbs up into a cave just behind the waterfall, Terry raises the rifle she retrieved and aims it right for Cerrone. But he quickly reaches for the barrel, pointing it upward as Terry fires a wild shot in the struggle, only to be tossed aside, and she collides with the last tank of fuel at the stern of the ship. But Danny returns from behind, smashing a piece of wood against Cerrone's spine, causing him to drop the rifle onto the floorboards. The men trade blows, Cerrone eating a few shots before returning a few of his own, and sending Danny tumbling over the deck furniture.
When he punches him and he goes flying over the furniture, the stuntman's face is in full view. Like, it's quick, but I was like, that is not Ice Cube. I even paused it on it. It's fucking hilarious.
Oh, wow. Terry, however, crawls for the rifle, reaching her feet with it as she aims for Cerrone. But before she can pull the trigger, he fucking throws a stool at her.
Yeah, dude, holy shit.
And this ruins her shot. Cerrone then retrieves his knife, driving it into Danny's leg as he howls in pain, and the men struggle as Cerrone holds the knife above Danny's face now. Terry tries to line up the shot with the rifle, but fears shooting Danny in the frenzy, and she screams for him to move his arm.
That's hilarious.
Like,
Yeah.
Crazy?
Yeah.
How?
He's trying to give himself from getting
It's like, get out of the way.
Why didn't you just walk up to him and you're right there?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me, dude?
No, let him stab you a little
Yeah.
bit. I can.
It'll distract him.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Anaconda has slithered up a tall tree adjacent to the waterfall with ease, lurching its long body right in front of the rushing water, obstructing its view of Westridge. But Westridge foolishly whimpers in fear, causing the reptile to reach its head through the waves to face him head on. With no other choice, Westridge screams as he dives through the water for the river below, but before he can make a splash, the Anaconda catches him by the face with its wide jaw, sinking its fangs into his flesh as it lifts him upward toward the tree, and it wraps around him in a constricting coil. Terry watches in horror, crying out for Westridge as she still aims the gun at Cerrone, but the snake's strength cinches around the tree too tightly, and as Westridge attempts to struggle against his captor, the roots of the tree break loose from its foundation, crashing down onto the deck of the ship and forcing Terry, Danny, and Cerrone to dive into the water to safety.
He's diving in that water with an open wound on his leg.
Oh, yeah.
He's fucked already.
Yeah. It is funny to think that the snake falling, he held on to Westridge. He's like, I'm not letting this go.
Oh, no.
But in the water, Terry surfaces first, calling out to Danny, who promptly joins her. As Terry calls out for Westridge, we see Cale has awakened inside of the cabin, sitting up in his bed. As the Anaconda absconds with an unconscious Westridge, Terry swims back to the boat, holding her hand out for Danny, who in his attempt to follow her, gets snagged and caught in a plant underwater. As the tension rises, Danny's barely able to wriggle himself free to swim for Terry's helping hand, but before he can reach her, Denise's corpse suddenly resurfaces, blocking his path and causing he and Terry to gasp in fright. I don't know why she resurfaced.
Yeah.
For that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Anaconda seizes this opportunity to rise from the river and sink its fangs into Danny's shoulder, quickly wrapping its body around him. And in a very have my cake and eat it too moment, the Anaconda also begins to devour Denise.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
Hedonism, man.
Yeah.
When Terry is unable to pull Danny free, she retrieves the rifle, everything moving in slow motion as she aims down sight, firing 3 accurate shots into the snake's skull.
It was very interesting to watch her fire that Model 70 Winchester bolt-action rifle 3 times without loading it. That was, it was magic.
We're letting a lot go. I feel. Blood pouring over its scales from its fresh wounds, the Anaconda shrieks, sinking under the water and loosening its grip on Danny. But before Terry can pull Danny to safety aboard the ship, Cerrone lurches up out of nowhere from the water, tackling Terry to the deck floor. As he reaches his feet, he seizes the rifle as Terry grabs his leg and wrestles with it awkwardly. Cerrone seethes. "You killed my warrior, Snake?" He tosses her to the side as he loads the rifle and racks it. He aims it at Danny. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Again, I know I've brought this up several times over the course of our show as a whole, but that episode with Gary Busey on King of the Hill when Bill gets slapped and then somebody else yells at him and then he slaps Bill again. That's what it felt like. I was like, why?
But Danny just floats in the water, slack-jawed for way too long not to be hilarious. But before Cerrone can pull the trigger, something is suddenly driven into his spine. Cerrone hilariously winces. The dart! And as he turns around, he discovers Kale standing behind him, the tranquilizer dart poking from Cerrone's back through his shirt.
Yeah, we remember. You might as well have just said the reptile tranquilizer.
Yeah.
From earlier.
With Cerrone's vision becoming blurry, Terry cries out that the tranquilizer is working. I guess you can see through his eyes.
Yeah.
But all right.
That does make things.
But Danny takes this opportunity to elbow Cerrone across the jaw, sending him staggering into the water. As he sinks beneath the surface, Terry rushes to check on Kale, but Danny notices the tranquilizer floating upon the surface of the river, lamenting. Lamenting. Damn, the dart came out of the dart came out of his back. Dude, so the fuck what? It worked.
Yeah, I would still imagine it was in there long enough that he's going to be knocked out.
Yeah.
I was fucking like, okay, I get it. We're gonna see him later.
That's what it was for.
That's all it was for.
Ah, damn. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Blood leaking from the wound at his neck and down his chest. Kale loses consciousness again and is carried back into the bed inside of the cabin. Danny suggests that he can get them out of here as he thinks that the fallen tree knocked them loose from the rocks. So Terry tends to Kale again, but we get a very quick shot of the ship moving on through the water.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem with this is the shot is almost blink and you miss it so quick. The reason being it's a reversed shot and you can see the waterfall running backwards.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Okay, that was sent to me by our friend Amber, and I don't even think I clocked it in the movie. I just saw the little piece of it.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
It's always something that we've noticed, or I noticed before, and I was like, why is that happening?
Yeah.
And wrote it off. Then the more I watched it, I was like, oh no, that's not supposed to be that.
They're
No.
like, be worried because the tranquilizer came out of Cerrone's back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't look at the waterfall. Why are you looking at the waterfall?
So this has gotten surreal. This is hell.
Yeah.
No, we're turning back time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Put
wow.
on some chair. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine.
But before we leave this area, I did want to talk about this section of the river. I was very surprised to learn that this is where they returned after shooting in the Amazon. This is an arboretum in Arcadia, California, and they turned the area of the arboretum into this waterfall.
Wow.
Yeah.
They built it from the ground up. It took them 3.5 months. And they said that they supplied 2,000 gallons of water per minute to this waterfall.
Holy shit.
From a man-made lake that they also made.
Wow.
Damn.
Did they have to use extra water to get it to run backwards?
That was a different process.
That's how they got it back.
Yeah. It's called recycling.
I love it.
But we soon find the ship coasting through the river. And to Danny's amazement, through the window, he discovers not only a dock, but a dilapidated dock house just off the starboard side of the ship. He alerts Terry to his findings, and the pair dock the ship, descending together over rickety planks of wood, Danny limping with every step from the wound in his leg. The rifle clutched in his hands, Danny surveils the area, but just in front of them, Terry discovers discarded and dust-covered weapons resting on the dock. An axe, a rifle. She admits that she doesn't want to know what happened here, which is an odd thing for a documentarian to say.
Yeah.
But go
Like,
off.
this is none of my fucking business.
Yeah.
Well, it's all fucked up out there.
Yeah.
But they continue onward for the dockhouse in the hopes that they can find fuel for their boat. But the camera arcs through the surrounding vegetation, twisting and turning upright with the Micaela 1 in our sights. But as Terry and Danny enter the dockhouse, it looks like something out of The Last of Us. Sunlight pouring in through smashed-in walls, leaves and debris littering the area, and the entire place overtaken by parasitic plants. But at the far end of the room, Terry spots an array of metal drums and wonders if they could be fuel. They cautiously creep their way over, the music rising tensely around them. But Terry recognizes something resting on the ground just in front of the drums. She reaches her trembling hand for it, raising it upward. A thin, white sheet like a discarded veil. Danny recognizes what it is, too. Snake skin.
Decent callback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terry drops it instinctively and glances around nervously before rushing to help Danny wrench open one of the drums. To their relief, Terry announces, "Look, there's plenty of fuel in here."
Good.
Yeah.
We just got to get it to the boat.
Yeah.
Well, suddenly, just behind them, a voice with a very confused accent cries out, "Welcome." And just as they turn around, Cerrone launches at them from between the plants with a stick, apparently knocking them both out with
Both.
Yeah.
with one blow.
Yeah.
It's just enough.
Give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
He's a villain.
Yeah, we got that. Also, we all knew that he was coming back, but it didn't need to be the next scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, so was that him eyeing the ship from the water?
Oh my God.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't the snake.
But how do you get there faster or just as fast as they did?
You know that, like, when you see, like, Olympic swimmers doing, like, the,
no.
the overarm stroke? That's him.
That's what he was doing.
Yeah. But we return to find Terry and Danny tied back to back, resting on the floor of the dockhouse. A low trickling noise is heard, and when the camera arcs around an adjacent table, we see a poor animal being bled into a bucket just beneath its carcass. Once enough blood is collected, Cerrone snags the handle, humming a song to himself as he marches over to Terry and Danny, declaring that it's time to wake up. In slow motion, he chucks the contents of the bucket onto them, coating them in crimson as they writhe against their restraints. He smiles. Monkey blood.
I need him. We need to keep the monkeys away from this.
Yeah.
It's enough already. It's enough.
It's bananas. Terry shrieks that she's going to kill him, but Cerrone just warns with a chuckle, "Don't get me upset." He tosses the bucket aside and kneels on the ground, coating his hands in the white powder that he finds there. He asks Terry and Danny if they see this substance, revealing it to be human bones, and he says that's how it comes out. Ashes to ashes.
It comes out of where?
What the fuck are you
that's-
talking about?
Yeah.
I don't understand at
Yeah,
all.
I don't either.
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah.
And then again, I was like, are we trying too hard to do the, like, snake is an evil religious thing? Or
I don't know.
I don't know.
The ashes to
but,
ashes?
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Where's it coming from? How?
I
What?
don't- But he clumsily crosses the pair as he ascends a creaking ladder to the next level. He watches from above through opaque windows, and in a wide shot, we discover that Terry and Danny are resting on a large knitted net. They look upward as we arc down toward them in a POV shot, fear filling their features as Danny cries out, "Holy shit, look!" Terry trembles in fright as they reach their feet together, and we soon see what scared them. It descends from the rafters of the dockhouse, its black and red scales shimmering in the sunlight. A massive anaconda, much larger and far more menacing than the one they tangled with previously.
I read that they made 2 puppets,
Mhm.
2 anacondas. One was 25 feet and I think 1,500 pounds.
Good Lord.
And the other one, presumably this one, was 40 feet and over a ton.
God damn. I saw on the production notes they had referred to, I think, the first snake that we were dealing with as the warrior snake.
Mhm.
And this snake, I think, was called the queen snake.
Okay.
Oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense. I didn't get that at all.
No.
Nope. Yeah, no. I just wondered why one was big and one was small. And I thought it was the same snake.
Well, he said they grow.
Yeah.
The shedding of the skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it slithers down toward them, its tongue flicking in their direction as Cerrone stares on in wonder. Terry and Danny attempt to make a break for it, but are quickly seized by the snake's twisting tail, and the pair are wrapped and squeezed tightly against their pointless protests. But Cerrone swings down from the second level on a rope, which pulls the net up around the body of the snake and its 2 captives. Once he reaches the floor below, Cerrone ties the rope around a valve on the other side of the room and races for his tranquilizer gun to quell the wriggling beast, who thrashes violently under the net, shrieking madly. From the strength of its frenetic movements, the anaconda is able to tear the valve and the pipe free from the wall, wriggling out of the net to set its sights on Cerrone, who takes off running, climbing the ladder as fast as he can. The snake slithers up the ladder, its tail knocking Terry and Danny over as it seizes Cerrone with the swiftness, sinking its fangs into his shoulder.
I'm starting to think that these anacondas are just dicks. You keep tripping us with your tail for whatever reason.
They love it.
Yeah, I don't know why you're doing that. Let us get away.
Please.
They should have put that in the text crawl,
Yeah.
and it trips you all the time.
Yeah.
And they're mean. It's like, oh.
But the weight of the snake dislodges the rickety ladder from the wall, causing Cerrone to tumble back to the first floor. He reaches his feet quickly, but when he tries to run away from his pursuer, Danny reaches for a pulley with his legs, wrenching it upward and causing the net to form a barrier, cutting off Cerrone's path of escape. He wrestles with the net, finally able to tear it to the ground, but it gives the anaconda just enough time to catch up with him, capturing him in a brutal bite and carrying him back to its coiled body, which wraps tighter and tighter around him. The snake stares Cerrone right in the eyes, which could be a callback.
True.
Ah.
But his bones crack under the strength of its constriction. The anaconda then unhinges its jaws in a hiss, and we see from inside its cavernous throat as Cerrone is devoured, slinking upward through its enormous esophagus. Meanwhile, Terry and Danny are able to reach their feet, tearing free from their restraints on the opposite side of the room, watching in horror as Cerrone's legs wriggle out of the anaconda's wide mouth, only for him to be swallowed whole. And I swear, I don't know, but I think the anaconda burped, which is wild. Too much.
That was a full meal.
Catching her breath, Terry urgently insists that they get the fuel now. But just as they rush for it, the anaconda whips its tail, knocking Danny into the drums. Again!
Yeah, why?
But it soon sets its sights on Terry, who races for a ladder to the second level. She climbs it as Danny procures a pickaxe, swinging and missing wildly as the anaconda pursues Terry up above. It twists around corners on Terry's tail, but she's able to close herself inside of a room that she finds on the second floor. Putting her back to the door, she discovers that right in front of her is a nest of snakes, several of them slithering warmly over a mound of unhatched eggs. But before Terry even has time to react or comprehend it, the anaconda, doing its best Jack Torrance impression, shatters its head through the wall. But in some very unfortunate CGI, the anaconda regurgitates the half-digested body of Cerrone, which kneels slimy and slippery before Terry. And in some very unfortunate screenwriting, He winks at her.
All right.
Yeah.
This is when my soul left my body. I was like, what is this?
I am unsure.
What am I watching?
It's very weird
Yeah.
to do that. I feel like after everything we've been through, to have that there is like, why'd you do that? Why?
It's very confusing tonally because this whole time you've been playing it so serious.
Yes.
If you have that moment, but then meanwhile, the entire film we've been leaning into that, that's fine.
Yeah, it fits the tone.
Yeah.
But it's just so weird.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know if I can lock in for the rest of this. Like, I feel like that was the height, and it's like, okay, everything else, whatever.
Yeah.
Imagine having more of the script to write.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was like, fuck.
My condolences. I actually didn't finish the movie.
Go ahead.
Tell me what happened.
Cerrone then collapses, finally dead, and Terry takes off running to reconvene with Danny on the lower floor. She reveals to him that there's a nest of eggs on the floor above, but they quickly hatch a plan to use Terry as a decoy to trap the snake in an adjacent smokestack. Danny stays behind as the Anaconda chases Terry towards the smokestack, and he hacks at its tail with the pickaxe as Terry climbs the ladder that she finds on the other side of the room. After its tail knocks over a drum of fuel and it reaches its head up the ladder towards Terry, Danny pins the Anaconda to the floor with the pickaxe. He then calls out to Terry and makes sure that there's a way out at the top of the smokestack.
I was a little confused here because it looks like he runs under the snake and he's yelling up to her, and the snake's just there like, if I could turn around.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
Fuck?
It's like you're uniquely equipped to turn around.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
You should be able to.
He's like, I'm after her now.
Yeah.
But Terry assures him that there is an opening at the top, and as she climbs for it, Danny tips over the other barrels of fuel to administer Plan B, which stands for blow up the snake. The snake snaps at Terry, unable to reach her with its tail pinned to the floor, and Danny utilizes a fuel-soaked hose as a fuse for the pool of oil. He strikes a match to light it just as Terry reaches the cage at the top of the smokestack. But as soon as the fuse is lit, Terry realizes that she's unable to open the gate. She cries out as the fire spreads down below, and the Anaconda tears itself loose from Danny's pickaxe. It rushes right for Terry, but Danny is able to tie its tail with a chain and secure it momentarily. This is happening way too fast.
Yeah,
It's so
no, it is.
fast.
I'm like, we're really racing to...
Yes.
He calls out for Terry, directing her to bash the hinges of the cage to bust it open, which she's finally able to do. But the snake breaks free as well and follows her to the tall roof of the smokestack. Standing on high and overlooking the deck below, Terry descends to the side of the structure, hanging precariously from a length of rope, as Danny shouts from the safety of the docks that she'll have to jump. Terry refuses to jump, but the decision is soon made for her when the fire reaches the pool of fuel and an explosion bursts brightly, climbing the smokestack, with its resulting rumble shaking Terry loose from the rope and depositing her into the water below. The burning structure crumbles to the ground, and as Terry and Danny shield themselves from falling debris, we see the snake shrieking as it crashes into the water next to Terry, covered in flames. Its scales sizzling, it still pursues her all the way back to the dock where Danny is able to pull her to safety. The snake, however, sinks listlessly beneath the water, a solemn shriek escaping it as it seemingly dies.
Yeah. I don't know.
After the pair catch their breath, Danny suggests that they get the fuel that they came here for. But as he walks across the dock, the Anaconda returns, bursting its head through the wooden boards between him and Terry screams. But Danny thinks quickly, retrieving the dusty and discarded axe that they saw earlier and repeatedly sinking the business end of it into the scaly skull of the snake.
That thing shot through there so fast. That looked fucking hilarious. Because it shoots straight up out the dock.
Uh-huh.
Or like the boards there. And I had to rewind it because I was like, that looks very funny. Because it's just the snake head straight through there.
That's probably all it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the anaconda's shrieks echo as it crashes into the water below, and Danny, naturally, calls it the B word. But with the anaconda eradicated, Terry and Danny return to the ship, Terry immediately entering the cabin to check in on Kale, and as soon as she arrives, he awakens, weakly addressing her as Miss Flores. He looks her over, smirking that she's a mess, but the two embrace, Terry growing emotional as she holds him tightly. He's like, you're going to have to catch me up on it.
Yeah. I've kind of been, I passed out after shooting.
So how's Westridge doing?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Oh.
Can Denise come in? Oh, shit. And Gary?
Oh.
But sometime later, as the ship sails on, Kale stands on the deck, adjusting the bandage at his neck. But his eyes grow wide in wonder as just before him, gathered together in small canoes and sitting just outside of their dwellings, are members of the Shirishama tribe. They stare up at the Michaela 1 as it drifts by, and when Terry returns to Kale's side at the railing outside of the wheelhouse, Kale directs her attention to the tribe, admitting that Cerrone was right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So what was his angle?
Yeah, I don't know.
It makes no sense. I know at the top I was like, it's a clear story. It's like, now I'm like, I don't know if that's true.
But serene music overtakes the score as Terry calls Danny away from the helm, and he peers through the trees in amazement at the tribe. Maybe after all that we've been through, we don't have somebody not manning the...
Yeah, stay there.
But Danny smiles that he should get his camera, and he heads back inside to do just that. Terry announces, roll film, and Danny concurs, camera rolling. But we abruptly cut to the Michaela 1 sailing off into the golden glow of sunset as the main theme plays, and the credits roll. So, what did you guys think of Anaconda?
So I still had a lot of fun watching it and a lot of fun talking about it. There is some things, again, that are brought forward that are still kind of like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Going over it. And there is a lot that is wrong with this. And I think it might just be me having watched it a lot before that I do enjoy this movie. Because I do watch it and understand how it isn't great. But there's something about it that I'm still laughing. I'm still watching it and I'm like, this is fine.
Yeah.
But I know it's not great.
No, it's kind of a mess, but it's so funny at times. Even though I know that it's not intentional, I think that the more we went along, the more that I'm like, actually, I don't know if the story makes a lot of sense. I don't know. There's some good moments that I feel like are successful. I really, really love the puppet. Like you said, I think earlier, T, the performances are fine.
Yeah.
John Voight, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I don't know the facial expressions, the accent. I don't know what the fuck was happening there. But everybody else was fine. I don't know. This one is difficult because it's not like, oh my God, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. But there are so many things where it's like, why did you choose to do that?
Yeah. And I feel like the more that we even discuss it, the more the plot just kind of unravels.
Yeah.
When you think about Cerrone's intentions, like what was even the point of him convincing them to do anything?
No, I don't know.
He already has his own boat. Him and Mateo can just go out whenever they want.
Yeah.
It's not as if this starts with the wreck of his boat.
Yeah, and he knew where to go.
It's not like the poacher's boat. If the poacher's boat was his, then yeah, we do need to fucking trick this other. But it's Mateo's boat that it makes no sense.
Yeah.
None.
But it's the crux of everything. This boat is the key to all of it.
Yes.
So I'm just confused at the point of that, and I don't know. Nobody becoming aware at all until it's way too late that Cerrone is a villain.
Yeah.
When he had a shirt on that said villain.
Yeah.
It was bedazzled.
Yes.
Like, no, it was so blatant that, like I said earlier, I was like, maybe he's a red herring.
Right.
No.
Well, it said it on the side of the ship that he was crashed on, SS Villainy.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. Well.
License plate
come
said
on.
scamming.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the whole thing for me is like, you've made it so obvious with him being the villain, then shouldn't it be like this very ridiculous comedy horror situation? We already know what's going to happen.
Yes.
But everything is played so serious and so dramatic.
Yeah.
Let's have fun with it because it's a very ridiculous thing that's happening here.
Yeah, or if he's the villain, then make the Anaconda misunderstood or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
he's, you know what I mean?
Right.
He's the one bothering.
He's the
Anacondas.
monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead, the Anaconda is just kind of like in between.
Yeah.
Equal opportunity eater.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I wanted to have so much more fun with this film than I did. And the fun that I did have, it really was in spite of the film.
Yeah.
I am just forever perplexed, and I will always be perplexed by what Jon Voight was doing here.
I just want answers.
Yeah.
Was that him? Did he have room to just kind of interpret the character how he wanted? Was he directed to do did he have a dialect coach?
Yeah.
Clearly
No.
not. Clearly
No.
not.
He had
Unless
10
it was Christopher Walken.
dialect coaches. Yeah. Christopher Walken, Marlon Brando, Stephen King.
I don't understand.
But I mean, I guess we can just slide into ratings. I think that this film is one that I understand why a lot of people like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that there are some good things about it. I think that their cinematography is pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are times when the music fits the scenes really well.
Yeah.
There are times where it's really overbearing,
Yeah.
Mhm.
especially when the point of a scene is silence and you have the score going.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
I also I think that the performances, as you said, minus Jon Voight,
Yeah.
are fine.
Yeah.
Like Eric Stoltz does well. Owen Wilson is an odd choice to me still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, he does fine with what he's given.
Mhm.
Carrie Warrer, like everybody.
Yeah.
I will say, I thought Jennifer Lopez was very okay.
I think she did fine.
Yeah.
I feel like anybody could have played this role.
Yeah.
For sure.
But what really drags the film down for me is a lot of the choices in the screenplay and the plot of the film.
Yeah.
Where if you even kind of take anything apart for just 1 second, you're like, oh, none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
The idea of them being like this trio of poachers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and then just kind of this whole thing, and then he takes the newspaper clipping, which is all the evidence that she needs. It's like, God damn, dude, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't understand what happened with the editing of several sections of this film.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was a lack of coverage or what, but you can't have it to where your last shot shows a character facing one way and the next they're completely turned around. Or reverse a shot to where a waterfall is magically rising upward.
Yeah.
Honestly, kind of iconic.
Look,
That's hilarious.
it's so funny to me because they're like, we don't have a shot of this boat departing.
Yeah.
But we do have a shot of it arriving. They won't know the difference.
Yeah.
We knew the difference.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know. I see there being a lot of enjoyment here, even though we really did pick it apart. I do think that one thing that I do appreciate about it is definitely some of the practical effects work.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just so wild how promptly, at least in my view, it's ruined by the really I don't even know, maybe it's just a sign of the times,
Mm-hmm.
but the CG work is just so
No, it's terrible.
poor.
Yeah.
And it's like this drastic contrast,
Yeah.
sometimes within the same scene or attack. And so it's just like, God damn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I will say I probably I don't see myself returning to this film.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason for it is they really just missed the mark as far as how fun intentionally this film should have been, leaning into what is clearly hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
but not really. I just don't understand what they thought they had.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, out of 10 sinister, slithering snakes, I am going to give Anaconda 4 sinister, slithering snakes out of 10. I know it seems low, and it's because it is. But I will now open the floor to you and finally rest my voice.
I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of it, my enjoyment for this movie does stem from me watching it a lot as a kid or as a teen. You know what I mean? And I mean, it is, like I said, it's something that me and my brother would quote for whatever reason. The movie isn't good, but I'll be honest. For me, I'm on the other side of the coin. I'll watch this when we're done recording. I'll watch this tomorrow in the morning. I'll watch it in the afternoon. Will I pick it over other things? No. But if it's on, hell yeah, I'm going to watch it. It's Anaconda. It's fucking silly. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why I guess at the time, and it does, us talking about it, I feel like it might be one of those movies with the momentum. If you stop what's happening, there's going to be some questions, but that last part of the movie, it does go really quick when they're fighting the snake, and then it's just over. We get this happy ending, and it's like, oh, okay. Not for some of the crew, but for some, who sleep the whole time. But it is still, for me, I think it's one of those teen movie that I watched as a teen that kind of stuck with me. I did have a score in mind, but we did have a lot of fun talking about it, and it is something that I do remember enjoying a lot. Not because it's a good movie, but because it was a bad movie that brought me and my brother a lot of joy. So for me, on a scale from 1 to 10, sinister, slithering snakes, I'm going to give Anaconda. I know it sounds high, but again, remind you I'm giving half a point for I'm going to give Anaconda a 7 out of 10. I have still a lot of fun with the movie. I know it's bad. I know it's not whatever. And I think it is that works for me, that it's unintentionally funny. And it's not supposed to be because it is very serious. But it is that, like, you guys are really trying.
Yeah.
It's not working.
I had said at some point, either yesterday or today, that I don't understand because, again, Maximum Overdrive is fresh on the brain because we just did it. Why I got so much more enjoyment out of that than I did this. And I think it does come down to it taking itself too seriously. But at the same time, Stephen King was not trying to make what he came out with.
No.
So I don't know why it's more okay for that, but less for I'm still trying to figure it out. But this was just less successful for me in regards to a quote unquote bad movie. You know what I mean? Maybe it didn't go far enough into ridiculousness, which is hard to say based on what we just watched.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is. There's just some kind of disconnect there for me because I be loving some trash, okay? And this, it does deliver to a certain degree, but it's not that full out, so bad it's good, fucking House of Wax remake, Maximum Over. It's just not, it didn't hit that for me, and I really wanted it to. So, I mean, that just kind of bums me out a little bit. That being said, I've already said how I feel about just John Voight, all of that, all of whatever the fuck Cerrone was. I don't understand any of it. And peeling back the layers of the story that I thought fully made sense, was fully fleshed out, it's not even. So, I mean, you have these moments of getting extremely close to the so bad it's good. And then you have moments where it's just kind of bad. And I don't know, I'm very conflicted because oddly enough, I would watch this again to laugh at it.
Yeah.
So I'm very conflicted. This one really threw me for a loop. I think I was expecting it to be worse than it was, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So we're just stuck in like this limbo of, oh, wow, that's not a very good movie. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I do need to say a number So
I don't know if it will help or hurt, but I think I read that Roger Ebert gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4.
are you pulling my
Yeah.
dick, bro?
It's like we are never on the same.
I don't know about that. That's a bit high.
Not even for
Yeah, that's a bit high.
never on the same fucking
Nope.
page.
No.
Oh my God. Well, I'm not giving it that.
Right.
On a scale from 1 to 10, sinister slithering snakes,
You got it.
I am going to give Anaconda a 4.5.
Okay.
It's almost middle of the road, but it is also not good.
Well, that's all from us at Pod Mortem. What would you rate Anaconda, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Instagram at the Pod Mortem. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and like our Stairhole Productions page on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Instagram and Blue Sky at TravisMWH, at Blood and Smoke, and at JuggaloDaddy84. Thanks again to Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Please consider pledging to our Patreon, where you'll gain access to over 200 hours of bonus content, our monthly schedule, our Discord server, and the opportunity to help us decide which films to cover. And if you're looking for Pod Mortem and Stairhole Productions merch, follow the link in our episode notes. Stay tuned until after the music for a special thank you to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, while there's nothing wrong with ambition, if you let your desire for success consume you, it just might swallow you whole. Until next time. Thank you for staying tuned. We want to give a very special thank you to all of our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Woo! Yeah.
Very good. A special thank you to
Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Jordan Nash, Kent Morton, Lala Thomas, Travis Anissa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Jennifer Perez, Allison O'Neill, Carissa, TJ and Angie Bronson, Gabrielle Trevino, Applin Ontiveros, Karima Rhodes, Antonio Huerta, Kimberly Kleindienst, Sydney Smith, Osvaldo Soto, Bobby Holmes, Donna Eason, JD Rezak, Molly Gerhard, Armand Spasto, Aaron Aguirre, Eggy, William Berry, Charity Oxner, Amanda Six, Mandy Rainwater, Eden, Jordan Roberts, Dylan, Liz Heath, Spencer Montavo, Pancake the Panda, John Ramos, Michael Nuding, Alexis Roberts, Dan Laveau, Itzy M, Gary Horton, Leisha Olivier, Kate Lamp, Carlos and Sydney, Jessica Hunter, Helena Rudder, Alan Johnston, Mariah, Livy Fun, Scott Troutman Wise, Towton Watson, Mozzie Bear, Brittany G, Dave Burke, Emma Hagel Kissinger, Valerie G, Emiliana, Brian Glass, CB, Taylor Santana, Will Lewison, Angelique, Smelly Poo Poo Head, Beth Bauer, Cookie, Esperanza J, Jason Cow OKC, Joshua Rumley, Danielle Peralta, Brandon, Sawyer Reese Farr, Sahara, Girl That's Scary, Cassandra, Andrea Simmons, Ashley Higuera, William and Xxena Rush, Ryan Brom, Megan Ochoa, Laura Lassiter,
Eileen O, Marissa E, Sydney, Megan M, Strangely Sarah, Christy Beck, Nancy and Andy, Amanda Lopez, Andy Terrell, Jason Hanovan, Katie K, Erica Morin, Cameron S, Triss Wynn, K.87, Mariah Jensen, Carrie A, Lonnie Lono, Powell, Kayla E, Maggie H, Murder Stina, Kristen Marcy, Ori81 Boricua, Look Like That One Girl, Bog Boy, Felnez 63, Alita Pui, Probably My Jugs, Kate Thackeray, Wade Pack, A Lizard, Bay J, Jay Rich, Topher Williams, Elena Metler, Valerie K, Christy Lee Kruger, Professor of Humanities Laura McCarricker, Naomi, Josh Smith, Autumn Green, Abby Kopp, Crystal 831, Skank Sinatra, Morgan Alexander, Tony Osteen, Julie Fredborg, Rihanna S., Daniel Taylor, Anna Kate, Heather Ortiz, Kim H., August, Vengeance Spirit, Kelly Glazyface Mac, Jenny May, Glittery Fab, Malik Caselli Armstrong, Scarly D, Toya Shea, Katie, Martin Shaw, Star, Tyler J, Daniel Dickerson, Cam Davies, Patrick Hoagland,
Raven, D, Wesley Tart, Kristen Jackson, Jacob Nordberg, Spencer, Samantha, Damian Grant, Half Price Horror, Clemmy, Erica, Jason X Rules, Karen Burrows, 203 Duncan, Aaron Norman, Stephen Rogers, Victoria Smith, Patricia A. Graham, Erasmo Peña, Danielle Wright, Tabitha Thomas, Becca Boo, Richard Murray, Irene, Sally Slater 52, Jordan McCarthy, Christy Michelle Wilson, Rosalind Harnias, Emily Rance, Amy, Lisa and Kathy, Mike H, Karen with the Y, Christian Sadler, Hannah, Sarah Jack, Casey L, Evelyn Knight, Paula Garcia, Ghastly Grandad, Megan and Alexandra Saldivar, Lisa Sykes, Sunny Jonas, Kelsey Niemeyer Cook, The Face Flowers, JG, Morgan Novello, Ashley, Alex M, Brandon C, Gordon Sutherland, Georgia Renland, Ashley Poe, Najee P, Seth Schaff, David Kermavner, Diana Joe, Connor Gormley, Carrie Parker, Katie Face, Yuko Imada, Jane Pillsbury, Caitlin Asher, Mia Franz, Dale Harley, Annabeth Carter, Pooh Bear, Calderas, and this is the Zodiac speaking. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
We appreciate each and every one of you and just want to say thanks.
All right. Very good.
Thank you. Until next time.